Welcome to the Faded Connections Path of Exile Community Podcast, episode number 32. Tonight, as usual, we're joined by BalorMage, and our two guests for this episode are the mastermind behind the item filter with the same name and the website where you can adjust it, NeverSink.
Thank you, and welcome. Thank you, and hi, everyone.
And of course, our favorite German community face, ItsYoji. No, most people don't know you're German, right?
I don't know, but hi. Most people actually have a hard time putting my accent to like pinpointing it down to Germany for some reason.
I wouldn't have picked at all.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm like from the very north. I have like a dialect in my accent.
A definitely more obscure accent.
Definitely.
It's probably good though, right? The more obscure your accent is, the more of a draw that is. Right?
Yeah, people actually keep asking. Some people thought I was Danish for like quite some time. It's like, are you Danish? No. And I always kept saying no. I just didn't say where I'm actually from. It worked for a while.
When you get it right.
Just to everyone something else, so that at some point everyone thinks that you're from another place, and it's.
And then they keep arguing in chat about where I'm from.
Yes.
I should have done that. I've had to restart my streaming career. So.
Just if anyone asks, just say yes.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So it's been about a week, and we've all been playing some of GGG's latest strike, the Harvest League, and I think I want to go right in it and ask how has your league start been, and what have you been playing? Like, what did you start with, and how it's been going? Let's start with Balor for a change. How's the league start been, Balor?
Pretty fantastic, actually. I started with Dominating Blow, which is as promising as it was before, although I had to make some minor alterations to the old build to make it work again, but it's still disgustingly good and more fun than a normal Necromancer, and has done everything in the game so far. Killed Sirius 8 like 8 or 9 times now. We're at 144, 143 completion already.
Ooh.
And oh my god, garden crafting is so powerful and so much fun. Except that they don't have any minion crafts or mana crafts, but we'll leave that for later. But other than that, absolutely great. The garden crafting is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful, I would agree. Even if you can't target something like exactly what you need, you still can go for like the secondary mods and guarantee those. It's still pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely think the garden crafting is very fun. It's just not as it's not as much, even though it's pretty much crafting on a silver plate for you. It's not as instantly gratifying as the insane drops that we had in the previous leagues, the loot pinatas from Delirium and all the way back to, I think, Legion, Blight, Metamorph, and Delirium were all pretty loot pinata, I think.
I feel
I
like
would
I'm
say.
I feel like I'm taking that ahead too early, but I think it's fantastic that they focus all more on a crafting league than a pinata league, and not just because I have to update my filter a lot less, but and that the uber strict filter is actually uber plus filter is too strict for normal gameplay now.
Yep, because you need bases.
Yeah, but I just think there's a lot of satisfaction now. Now, I'm not gonna say. I would say Harvest is kind of a new type of leagues. It's a league that kind of didn't exist before in that sense. It's a sort of complicated crafting league, and it's sort of like bestiary of its kind. I think it's a prototype, and it leaves a lot of wishes open. Like it has no map interaction. I find that's a little bit problematic. So there would be some monsters to slay and maybe some gardens to find. Maybe the gardens are guarded by monsters and you actually slay the monsters and get seeds from them. Maybe it would be a little bit more interesting. But the crafting itself, the fact that you're rewarded by getting interesting opportunities, kind of like in Syndicate, it feels fantastic, and I'm really enjoying that.
Have you already crafted powerful items for your character? What did you start with?
Oh yeah, I played. I started with Ground Slam, and I had this idea of I'm gonna make a Ground Slam character that abuses the Impaler node. So I'm gonna take Phase Run, Fist of War, Season Me Cry, Intimidating Cry, and I'm gonna also craft myself a big axe or mace, and then gonna pop all of that and go close to the enemy, and with one hit apply 5 stacks of really high-powered Impale. That means that all the follow-up hits are dealing even more damage, and it worked, and it worked wonderfully until the point that I noticed that it's kind of a little bit too much overhead and switched to Earthquake in the end and remove the Impaler node. But yeah, I've crafted a 750 DPS X. I have killed the final boss. I've have a bunch of fracture and synthesis crafts. So basically, the gear I have now on Cellfound is partially much stronger than the gear I would usually wear on the end in some other characters. So I'm wearing like a 100 HP, 80 resistance, onslaught, 30% movement speed boots, 280 life rings with 80 plus resistance, super high stats. You can make a lot of super powerful crafts, and I keep even the small table on my other side where I can even post it in chat, where you can where I'm keeping track of what kind of crafts I have, so that I know for later pretty much instantly, hey, what can I do with those crafts? Give me a second. I want to find the chat. I can find the chat.
What do you mean? Like which crafts you have stored, or what are you?
Or what bases you have stored?
What crafts I have stored?
Like the horty craftings.
Yeah, I have around 30 horty crafting stations right now. And yeah, so you can see there's this little table, and you can see basically what I'm using right now. So
yeah,
and basically
I started making that today as well. Like I have my first like 5 or 6 stations full now. I just like started getting into a bit more gardening, and at that point I was like, okay, I kind of need to know what I can actually craft. So if I see an item, I actually can see, oh yeah, in 3 crafts I can make this insane. That's basically what I. So I know I have like remove lightning mod, augment fizz mod, or whatever.
So now I'm hoping that I create something like an essenced item, something like maybe a Fortify amulet or something really interesting, or maybe a T1 physical X, and I can apply the fracture mod on that. So I have 4 of them stored up right now. It's 4 3. I have not updated the number of that, and I'm hoping I can fracture that and then craft it up with the other mods and create something that would be a non-influence, but kind of like Quadra T1 physical weapon or amulet. I have it's triple T1 suffix amulet lying around that's just begging for some meta crafts, but I'm lacking exalted orbs to finish that.
Yeah.
In general, really powerful, really enjoyable, and it's also kind of, it gives you an opportunity to actually strategize long term, which is nice.
So, interestingly enough, you can just lift those benches up once they're full and put them in your stash tab, and just search your stash tab for crafts too, which apparently a lot of people don't know.
Oh yeah, you can do that. But I think I did that. I don't think you can trade them. No, you can just like stash them into your stash.
Because I've not tried.
That would allow trading crafts.
But I don't think you can put them in the guild stash. You can only put them in the stash.
I don't have a guild stash. Cellfound.
Yeah, I mean, other people also can't.
Yeah, no, you can also not drop them in maps. I noticed you cannot, like any of the gardening items, you cannot get rid of them. If you have
like accidentally put them all in your inventory and you're like, oh, I can't pick stuff up, then you have to go back to the garden, stash them all away, or your hideout, stash them all away. Yeah, I have had that before.
But that is pretty fantastic. I'm really enjoying how. So I'm surprised how much quality of life Harvest had from the start.
Yep.
I was so certain it would be like a little bit of a mess, and there's so much to like. Yeah, sure, the highlighting could be better and sorting, whatever. But in general, the quality of how much garden quality of life you have is already great. Imagine you had to plant each seed by hand. Oh god.
Yeah.
I
I kind of wish there would also be like a just slap all my tier 2 seeds in there randomly. That would be kind of nice if I could be like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Because it's what I usually do is I just like slap all my tier 1s in one thing until I have enough tier 2 seeds to make like a full thing of tier 2s. Then I slap all those in and do that until I have enough for all tier 3s. And I slap all those in. And just tier 4s, like, I mean, you probably won't get all tier 4s very soon. So I would like put one tier 4 and then I put like tier 3s around that.
Yeah, it would have been great to get like a drop-down menu on the
hand.
auto plan seed,
Yeah.
exactly, and then you have like options tier 1, 2, 3, 4.
One handlers like this, and this.
Yeah, I kind of feel like one of the things that could remove are the adjacency requirements. I'm not exactly feeling that is very beneficial towards anything. I mean, it does make you think a little bit how you craft them down, but at some point it's basically just really easy and really soft. So remove that, add auto plant C2 seeds, and I think it will be fine.
Yeah. I also don't think they really add that much. I mean, they kind of limit you a little bit on how you can, like, if you just get one, let's say, tier 3 seed, but you don't have any tier 2s, you can't just like hatch it basically, or like
They
whatever you
slow
wanna
down
call it.
progression.
Yeah, it slows down
yeah.
progression a bit, but it's also at some point it's just like a little bit annoying and not really
Mhm.
slowing down anything anymore. I
And
feel
at
like.
that point, I've designed a little bit of a different station, crafting setup that I haven't quite seen used yet, where I place my T3s or T2s outside of the border so that I can just place one T4 inside and I don't need to pay for the T3s that I don't want. So that allows me to grow at
Yeah.
T4, T3 without paying all the sometimes insane life force prices in red maps.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still get away with actually growing the thing.
Yep.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I
do that
can
as
send
well.
screenshots of that.
You can do that for the tier 3, so you can like usually like the corner spots, kind of like that you have
Exactly.
in the
Yes.
2,
Yes.
so you can grow the corner spots as well. But
Exactly.
I don't really have my garden that optimized. I have like a layout that's pretty similar to like the very first layout that was posted on Reddit, where you have like a tier 1, some tier 2s, and like some tier 3 regions, and lots of storage tanks and lots of water crafting
I've
stations.
avoided layouts. I'm playing Factorio myself.
Yeah, but I just like the thing I set up was like when I looked at the layout, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now as well. So my layout was like naturally very similar to that one. And I looked at all the other layouts, but I personally don't really care to optimize past the point that I'm at right now. Plus, the layouts only have like 1 or 2 or 3 horticrafting station spots planned, and I have like way more usually set up.
Yeah.
I have like at least like 5 or 6, and then I stash them away. But at some point you have to like put them up again because you want to use them. So it's
That's something I really want is kind of the blight treatment. I would like to upgrade also my setup. I would like that there would be like ways to upgrade your crafters, your crafting stations, your pylons, whatever. Give them more range, give them more power, give them more dispersing range, give them more speed. So you could invest like into upgrading your infrastructure. I mean, that'd be like optional. I think like a lot, maybe some people wouldn't enjoy this, so it might not be ideal, but I think for those who enjoy such kind of weirdish automation, I would absolutely go for that.
I found it
might
weird
not
that
be
you
great for the majority of the game. Sorry.
Yeah, I found it weird that doesn't exist, and I also found it weird that you just get like the first garden, and that's the garden you have forever. Like you can't like change the garden or get a new one or like upgrade it or whatever. Like you just like have this growth, and that's like what you have until the end game. Like usually, I thought maybe you get like a smaller garden in the beginning, and you have to kind of like maybe upgrade it to like, or it upgrades as you progress or whatever.
It's weird that there's no internal progression for the league mechanic outside of the seed progression.
In general, it feels the whole league mechanic feels a little bit like uninvolved. There's just like the seed progression, and that's it. There's like not really any, I don't know, anything else happening except for like get crafts, plant seeds, get crafts, plant seeds. That's like all there is. It feels a little bit like everything that is in the league. It feels like really well polished, really well made. but it feels like it's so little, even though obviously it's like a huge system, and because it actually is so functional and works so well, it's probably been a lot of work to make, like all the pylons and all that user interface stuff. But I don't know, it feels like it also like doesn't, how do you say this? There's like just crafting and like this mini game, but there's like nothing else. Like Delirium maybe was a bit too far on the other side, where it's just like just speed clearing and content and waves and monsters, and that's like all there was, which was really great for a lot of people. And then there were some people who were like felt left over. And now I think it's the other way around. Like the people who like killing monsters, speed clearing, and don't like to play mini games and craft, now those guys feel left over. And I think both leagues kind of like split maybe the community not in half, but they all leave out like a certain portion of the community who are now complaining. Like last league, Reddit was full of complaints about how Delirium is too fast, pushes you too hard in maps to just like grind maps too fast always and always. And now it's like people are like, there's nothing happening, no mobs, no fat loots, no shinies. Where are my shinies? And it's the same, but it's other people complaining this time around. And I don't know how I think they could have probably added some shinies and some packs to this league, and it wouldn't have made the league like worse or different without.
I definitely expected to have mobs to kill, right? Like instead of just a seed cache,
exactly.
There could just have been 3 or 4 little packs.
They're like piranhas
mobs around the map.
Yeah,
and those could drop the seeds.
Yeah,
and then that would be
seed ambush.
Yeah,
or like ambush.
And I was definitely expecting that, and I'm a little surprised that there's nothing. You just
exactly. There could be like little groves that you find, and you kill the monsters around, or maybe you even find some higher tier seeds there. So it could be like a lot more interactive and a lot more interesting things. Like you find kind of some, let's imagine like enchanted oasis with some sort of sea and some plants around. And you can even maybe harvest those seeds from there. So there's already some pre-planted seeds. I don't know. It feels like crafting, nice, but the actual interaction, it feels a little bit like standard with having more trouble sustaining alchemies.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit weird like that. I mean, also I find it. I think it's a pretty bold move from GGG to go from Delirium to Harvest, like from one step to the next. I think those have been the most extreme examples of leagues that are completely opposite that we have had in. Yeah. Like if you put like a Legion in between this, or
that's so extreme.
Incursion, or anything, it would have made like the slope a lot less extreme. But right now we went from like this is the fastest, clear speed oriented, most mobs, most rewarding league we have ever had to no mobs, just crafting. Let's chill a bit.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that in the trailer video as well, because that really, like when I saw the like trailer from GGG and like the whole teaser thing, I was like, they can't just go from this to this. This is too crazy. People will riot, and the subreddit is pretty like on edge right now about like the whole situation.
They just went past their data plan on the server capacity with Delirium. It's just too much. They needed to chill for a league.
Honestly, I think it's quite easily explained. I think it's just COVID. I think I saw how it affected many companies, especially in the IT area, and migrating. And many companies that were used to working just from their workplace took like 1 to 2 months to adjust a complete migrate to a home office stable infrastructure. So imagine it also took them a lot of time, and they kind of had to say, okay guys, we have to cut corners. We have no choice. We already delayed our league. We have to cut a lot of corners. We want the thing to be stable, workable, and so forth. What can we implement in that time? Okay, we can do the UI implementation. We can't do a lot of new monsters, so we have to balance like just a few small boss fights. We can't do a lot of super intricate programming mechanics. So I think they already done a lot, actually quite more than expected for the COVID league. But I think basically the pandemic has affected the fact that they had to shrink the content down to a bare, stable minimum.
Could have been the case, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. When you first said this, like the whole reason is COVID, I was like, so GGG were like, okay, a pandemic, we need to like reduce the mob density so we can keep the minimum distance between between mobs. That's like a first thing my brain thought about. I was like, wait, no, that's not what he's referring to.
That's nice idea, but not what I meant. No social distancing for mobs.
Yeah, we can't put more mobs into the maps. Like the distances are getting too small. No. Yeah, I think that might have actually affected it.
But
overall, I don't.
But you can use that joke for the new stash tabs.
Oh yeah.
Maximize the distance between item types.
Between item types, yeah. Yeah, the new stash tabs I didn't really get. That was a bit of a weird one.
Well, we moved into it normally. So I thought I actually bought those stash tabs like the moment they came out. But I did it with like a super salty taste in my mouth. Like I'm like unhappy about doing this. But I do get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these a league, and they quite often take up 3, 4, 5, 6 stash tabs. So I need them, but I'm not pleased about it. Oils, catalysts, blight maps, like all those sort of things.
For me, the thing is, I have a normal stash tab for each of those things, and the amount that I get in a non simulacrum spammy league, I think fits into those tabs pretty well. Like my oils that I get during a league that I pick up, at some point I filter out like clear oils and whatnot. They fit into like one normal tab easily. And how often do you actually anoint something? At some point I would just stop picking the lower tiers up and sell the higher tiers.
I just put my oils into the wildcard slots in the currency tab.
Now those are full of what do you call them? Catalysts and simulacrum splinters. I actually put in the normal currency tab. I don't really see why I would put them anywhere else, because they stack to like 5k, and to the point I have 5k, I just run them.
So the thing is,
you go.
The thing is, I was upset about it until later that day when they showed us the stash affinity.
Yes,
plan.
Exactly.
And then I was like, I'm on board. I want them. I'm happy that I bought them now. Those are mine. I want stash affinity, please.
Yes, exactly. Sorting items has become so annoying. And I think the least fun part of Path of Exile is sorting 1 or 2 quad stash tabs. I can't imagine a less fun activity right now. So, and honestly, I call this the Diablo Immortal stash tabs, because instead of saying, hey guys, here's your harvest fix, here's your harvest commentary, here's what we're going to do with stash tabs. So you can auto-click into auto-sort into currency, it can auto-sort into divination card and so forth. It's all awesome. And by the way, we are also releasing 3 new stash tabs for quite a low price. That's basically what they've done. Instead, they didn't talk at all about Delirium, didn't talk at all about about Harvest, didn't talk about the cluster geo complaints at that point, didn't talk about the affinities, and just slapped into an angry community something to rage about even more. So it felt like releasing Diablo Immortal before announcing Diablo 4 kind of is not a clever PR move.
Yeah,
I think they weren't aware that. Yeah, please, Goji.
I think the PR disaster was like the worst part about this, and like the thing that they could have avoided the best.
Yes,
because I think they probably had this scheduled like weeks before, and they just like went with schedule, and then they like the subreddit already was like boiling up to the point that it was, where people were like, harvest sucks, where are my mobs, where are my alchemy orbs, and then like the other stuffs, like cluster jewels are hard to roll. People are like building up, raging about stuff more and more, and then they were like, give us money, by the way. And then everyone just like lost their shit. I think that's kind of like what happened. That's just it didn't work. At any point, anyone would have like been like, maybe like, I don't know, Bex, whoever reads like the subreddit was like, yo guys, before we release this info, we should maybe like make a statement about all the good stuff coming, and then we can like be like, give money now.
Exactly.
And that would have been fine probably if they announced like the stash affinity thing and like the cluster fixes and improved the seed drop rate, and then after that they would be like stash tabs. I think it would have gone over fine. I don't think the stash tabs themselves are an issue. I think people expected to get a fix for the sorting issue first before getting stuff like stash tabs, and I think when people saw the stash tabs, they thought, oh, so GGG are not fixing this. They think this is the solution, which apparently, or obviously now, as we know, is not the case. But no one knew that wasn't the case.
Yep.
Everyone thought like, so the stuff we've been complaining about, that's how they want to fix this. That's how they want to fix oils and catalysts and whatnot.
Well,
and we're like, that's not a good enough solution.
But it wasn't apparently not supposed to be the solution. So I think at this point, I think it's all fine. But if those 3 stash tabs were the solution, I would have agreed with like the raging rod and be like, yeah, that's not going to fix the actual issue.
Yeah.
I think the big problem with the stash tabs that most people have is that, like, at least the blighted map stash tab and to some degree the delirium stash tab is paying for functionality that should well have been implemented in existing tabs already, because blighted maps are maps. They should be in the map tab. There should be a spot for them in the map tab, and at least after Blight went core. Maybe not instantly, but maybe like 1 or 2 leagues after. In the same way, simulacrum splinters are splinters, just like breach splinters and timeless splinters. Like, they belong in the splinter tab. You can't say otherwise. I don't know. It's
I think it does. It would make sense for the. I mean, this is like just like one splinter type and one like large map fragment type. The splinters. It's like only one thing. They have to fit that in there somewhere. And I find it weird that we didn't get, like, instead of the Metamorph tab, we didn't get something similar to the seed cache, where we just plop in the Metamorph organs in a separate thing in the lab. Because when do we actually look at the Metamorph organs? When you are planning to go to the lab and make a
collect them
Metamorph?
Anyway, like when you have a set of good organs, then you do the Metamorph. Like if you have 5 or 6 that you can do in a row.
Usually like after like 3 weeks or so of the league, I'm like, oh wait, Metamorph exists, and then I run all my organs that I have. That's usually what happens to me. I just like toss them into one stash. Then when it's full, I'm like, wait, I can't control click my organ. Oh, it's full. Okay, do I have eyes?
I think that's a gameplay best solution and kind of compromise solution between gameplay and income. And that's what GG went for. Because gameplay best solution, delirium orbs don't need to exist. They could have just added 1 delirium orb that applies 20% on a map, and then you get a random delirium in-game. So that would be like absolutely basically the same, and people would still be using that.
Wouldn't be the same in terms of trading? Because like
you
trade the map that has the mod, but
yeah, I think
the same for Metamorph. You could have done something similar. For instance, every time you get that bar up, you kind of fill it automatically a little bit with the last rewards, and then at some point you have this Uber Metamorph fight in the lab. So you don't,
which is easier than the one in the map.
Yeah, you don't even have to pick up the organ. So that could be like passively stack up over time. So at some point you have this big encounter. And the oils are actually great items and could use their own stash tab, and the anointing mechanics you can anoint in there. It's right. I actually like the oil stash tab. I think it's well done. But I feel like some things like the blighted maps or the delirium splinters, I think that's kind of the extreme example. It feels a little bit too much. I feel like they should have rather released a good oil stash tab, or maybe add something like an expansion stash tab to the currency stash tab, because I get it. They can't work for free forever, and they can't keep updating the same stash tab everyone bought 3 years ago with new content, and it also doesn't pay their bills. So I understand their trouble, I understand their dilemma, but I feel like it could have been done in a little bit better way anyway.
Maybe I could have sold them as like upgrades to the currency stash tab, where you are like, you buy the Metamorph expansion for the currency stash tab, or you buy the Blight Oil expansion for the currency stash tab, kind of like this, if they want to still sell it. But I think the tab affinity, or like the item affinity, is a bit similar to that. And that's actually like one thing where I'm a bit worried about with the affinity announcement, where Chris like mentioned what the current plans are. I mean, it's not set in stone, and I'm a bit worried. The only thing that you cannot like do affinity for, as he said, or like they're not planning to do, is rare items. And rare items is already what most people like who efficiently play PoE and like try to min-max are not picking up. So there's even less reason to pick up rare items for like anyone who has stash tabs now, because everything else will automatically get control clicked into your stash and sorted.
But if everything else is automatically control clicked and sorted, then you have so much time on your hands. Then you can identify some rares.
Or you can kill
play
more
the
mobs.
next map, and get more automatically sorted items to then kill more mobs. And so
that's not even my concern.
I think that's my currently biggest concern, but maybe you have a better one.
My concern
I think there's
would be
a
that it's
worse concern.
The problem is it might add more and more additional small stash tabs, and you have to switch between them all the time. Maybe like that. But Balor, tell me.
No, my bigger concern is there's two things that need to happen for this not to be a horribly pay-to-win mechanic. One, default accounts don't have enough base stash tabs. They need to have probably at least 6 or 8 at this point with the amount of stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
And that affinity stuff needs to work with default stash tabs. I need to be able to tell it.
Definitely.
I need to be able to tell it that my currency goes in this tab, even if it's not a currency tab.
Yeah, I think that how I understood it, that is how it should work. If it doesn't, I think that would be horrible. Because I think that affinity function, he said you do not have to pay for the affinity function.
No, he said they said you do not have to pay for the folder function. For the affinity function, they specifically left it unclear whether it would be pay or not.
All right.
So it's a little bit edgy. Yeah, I agree that
I'm 99.9% sure we won't have to pay for the affinity function, but I'm 99.9% sure you won't get additional free stash tabs, and no one will also get the affinity function for any non-premium stash tabs. I'm like pretty damn sure about that because the premium selling function already pretty much shows that. So yeah, you can. It's basically at that point you can try out the game, and yeah, you can play with your 4 stash tabs. But if you want to realistically trade or collect more than 1 hour worth of loot, you will basically have to pay for that. And I'm not sure what to think about that. On one hand, it's kind of shitty. On the other hand, it's kind of understandable. It's a complicated dilemma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, PoE at this point is kind of like more a free trial game already. Yes. I feel. I mean, if you want to play it, you can play till the end game, but it's not like convenient to play till the end game without like no content is actually locked behind a paywall, but like the usability is locked behind a paywall basically, which is like a very soft paywall. I mean, there have been people like raised to 100 with like I think Isla was like famously racing to 100 with like
but that's ages ago. That was before Legion Splinters and all.
Yeah, that I know that was all up. Even though you can argue that Legion Splinters are not really usually part of a 100 race, so you can just like leave them out if you wanted to. But yeah, it's a bit tricky, and there's like so many more items now. Oils. And oils are definitely part of every character now, and there are already so many items. Yeah, everyone wants to anoint an amulet to the point where talismans are not being picked up anymore, and corrupted amulets without an anoint are useless.
There are alterations. They are already identified. You pick them up in bulk and you sell them for a lot of alteration. They're perfect.
Oftentimes they are augments because they have too many mods.
That's true.
Sad.
I mean, that might sound good in solo self-found, but I can get 13 alterations for a chaos, and I can get 200 in chaos for an X. So I'm not
200
vendoring things.
Thank you.
So I'm not vendoring things for whatever fraction of an exalt that ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to math that, but alterations are not worth picking up. And it's especially not worth picking up something to then vendor for an alt. Like, no.
About the whole talisman situation, do you think they should not be corrupted like suggested in chat? Or should they drop with a random anoint and random quality of a random kind? I think that would be so cool. That would be so RNG. Because then they could still be really good, potentially.
I think you could just remove them from the game.
Yep, that would work.
Why are we holding on to...
I think they're cool that they exist in the form that you can... betrayal craft amulets into random talismans of a certain tier.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like a cool upgrade thing to have.
And that could be the only
all we need.
They don't need
could
to drop.
add this effect if they wanted to. They could add this effect to other game mechanics later. Like Harvest could have, for example, the same craft, stuff like this, if they wanted to.
Transform the implicit into a talisman. But they don't need to drop on the floor. It's just a waste of time. Talismans and ghosts are both like in my crosshairs if I could just delete from the game.
Yeah, or like at least like reduce them as a random mechanic. Yeah, I had today. I did the there's like a harvest craft where you add the boss is surrounded by ghosts to a map. That was actually pretty hilarious. It makes the boss Omega Rippy and super fast. And I put it on the Geode, which is like the
I had that also on the Geode.
My character has 80 chaos resist, so it's not that dangerous. But it's still. He was like super fast. He was spawning these like ads that he spawns so fast, so quickly, and they go like mine new golems. There's like I run into the room and suddenly it's like full of golems and dudes, and the game gets laggy. I'm like, holy shit, what's happening? And there's some really fun like map crafts you can do actually. The augmented Zana mods where you like add like 12 rogue exiles to your map or whatever, like 15 strong boxes and stuff like that. Those are actually pretty hilarious.
Really cool.
They're really fun.
The ghost spawned for me outside the arena, so it wasn't quite as great. But
the ghost for me was like 8 ghosts or something like this.
Yeah, I had 4 ghosts outside of the arena and 2 inside, so it was a little bit strange. But
that's weird. For me, it worked.
That's hilarious.
Maybe it's like for some maps, it's probably not working quite as well as for others.
No, Mesa didn't work quite well.
Oh yeah, Mesa with like the small arena on top.
Yeah, they were outside and then all flew away, and I had to earthquake them.
Well, but yeah, overall, it's pretty cool actually. I think there's a lot of like fun stuff like this in Harvest. That's not necessarily like super min max. I mean, you can probably like choose a map like crazy with if you get like the right crafts. Like I don't know if there's some extreme versions of like Legion or whatever where you can put like monoliths. I don't know. I haven't seen those, but there's definitely some good crafts. I actually like intentionally didn't spoil myself with all the crafts. I didn't like read them.
Have you tried the new lab?
No, I didn't get that craft yet. I just get my Uber lab today, so I'm not that far in.
So I tried that and I died to the final with Zara, but on my way I opened, it was kind of an unhappy one shot. He leaped at me and it was sad. But he has like insane mods on that, like 40% more speed, 300% more life, 60% more damage, and like a ton of other mods. And all of that plus he's level 83 instead of 75. So there's like a lot of, and traps deal double damage and a lot of other fun stuff that but if you open the chest there, you get pretty insane loot even on the way. So you get like double corrupted uniques and sixlings. So that's sounds fun.
Still a lab though.
Yeah, but
fun.
So I have one of them. I've tried one of them. The other one is like lying around my stash tab, and I sometimes eye it and then go on mapping. And
I mean, it does sound like it's very rewarding, and I think it's actually a good type of content to add because there's definitely this like community of lab running people who have not had like they run lab for like leagues on end, and they haven't had anything. They had some nerfs. Why ever they would get those, but like nerf the chest and stuff, and they're still lab running because the enchants are usually still worth doing. Like it's a good way to make currency if you can endure the running lab every day. But I think it's actually really, really good and really cool because that's definitely like a very stable part of the community for a while now. And
now you can enchant all kinds of items. You can enchant now flasks, belts, weapons, maps.
Yeah, you could add like so many new mods this patch to like so many items. Like you can non-corrupted implicit like jewels, for example. That's like so much extra like min-maxing.
Yeah, but most of them are pretty bad.
That's some pretty nice ones. Like
because I've hit 7 jewels so far and haven't hit any good map things.
I had ES region, so it would technically be decent on an ES character, but nothing. I think it has a special pool like frenzy charge duration, power charge duration, reduced reflect elemental damage taken. So if you're dreaming about your corrupted blood and reduced mana, no. It's also like kind of the energy power saving version of an implicit.
I had like one reduced mana, which sold for quite a bit, and I have a move speed one right now that I'm using, which is completely useless because I'm using the Stampede boots, which set my movement speed to a fixed value. But yeah, I'm just re-rolling it until I get something useful. I put that on like Might of the Meek, which I'm using.
Okay.
We started off really, really strong and then went on a tangent and are now in the middle. Can we now loop back to the beginning and be like, now that you're talking about you using Stampede boots, what did you league start with, Yoji? What did?
Oh yeah, I didn't actually talk about that. Okay, yeah, I decided to make a league starter that is like really hard to league start on.
Because I'm hoping that your league starter is going to segue us into the two-hand and Warcry stuff.
It's not happening. I played two-handed for the past few leagues, and I've always felt like they needed a buff, and now that they're buffed, I'm actually playing something else, which makes absolutely no sense. But I decided to league start a Righteous Fire Mjolnir, because Righteous Fire Mjolnir has to be a horrible league starter, and I wanted to league start something that takes a lot of effort to do and a lot of specific items, and makes it actually kind of justifies me starting in trade, because usually I prefer playing solo self-found. But it worked actually pretty well. Like at day 1, I was Mjolniring already with Wave of Conviction on a Chieftain, with like full fire conversion, Wave of Conviction, cast while channeling, Cyclone, Purifying Flame setup. Mjolnir is only like 1 or 2 chaos day 1 because no one buys a Mjolnir day 1 except me, which is pretty good. They're actually like 5 or 10 chaos now. But
Did you
actually,
get
The guy who sold you
Instrumentus,
that
or
must
did
have been
you-
like, "What? My
Yeah.
Mjolnir is selling?"
yeah, but why? Who is
I'm
buying
go-
this? Who's this guy?
I'm gonna
Here,
make
take
a
it.
note for the next league.
And it's actually pretty strong. I mean, if you're like Mjolniring like day 1 in like wide maps, obviously you're crushing them because that item gives you like 100% increased damage to trigger spell. It works. The thing works. And my plan is to like, today I expect into Righteous Fire as well. I'm using like a Safford's Frame and just like normal region. I'm not doing like any shenanigans. Eventually I want to do Divine Flesh, but I'm not quite there yet. I need to like get some stuff set up that I can keep my intelligence while having the chaos resistance, while actually like being able to have enough accuracy and attack speed to make Mjolnir worth it, while also being able to have Divine Flesh on my tree. For that, I acquired a Thread of Hope today. I still need a split personality with the very specific mods, and then at some point I will be able to put the Glorious Vanity in. It's a very convoluted build with lots of like parts that have to fit together. But it will be a very tanky build in the end because Divine Flash is pretty good. I'll have something like 60-something% of Fist taken as ally and Chaos from different sources, while still doing a bit more DPS than Quinn normally does. So it still should be able to clear content. Yeah, it's pretty fun so far. I was actually surprised how well it started. I was able to like get to like now I'm at like tier 16 maps since basically today. About to do my first series. I just summoned it right before the podcast, and I'm about to do it, but it should be fine. Like I have like 6k life. I'm regenning over 1,000 life, even with Righteous Fire up, because I have like the Consecrated. I can sustain Righteous Fire without buffs, and I have Consecrated Ground. The Chieftain gets like, if you've been hit recently, you get like 50% increased recovery rate. So even without counting that, I'm sustaining Righteous Fire, and I have like lots of sources of extra leech regen. Immortal Calls, which proc all the time from like endurance charges. I have Enduring Cry if I need a bit of health buff. The build's actually working out quite well for such a weird build, but it still needs a lot of places to like fix until everything's in place.
Man, Enduring Cry is so juicy.
It's for leveling. It's like so nice. Like, hey, I never need to upgrade my health fast. I have this button here that just does it for me. Pretty good.
So strong.
Left click Enduring Cry for the win.
Do you have, like with instant walk rise? Because without it,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the cast time is actually pretty high. I'm actually using it with Second Wind. What's it called? The new
Urgent
walk rise?
orders.
Urgent orders, because I kind of want to use it like twice sometimes in a row, and I like the instant walk rise a bit too far away because I decided to not go down to Soul of Steel. I actually wanted to do that for the max res, but they added max res right above the Templar now as well, which also has reduced ailment effect. So I have with Soul of Arakali and the whole tree, you can actually get 100% reduced shock effect on you, which is kind of nice. I didn't go for like the whole thing, but I have like 70 or 80%. And shock usually for Righteous Fire is a bit mean because if you get like 50% from shock ground increased damage taken on you, your Righteous Fire will start killing you again, which is not so cool. But now I can actually
not just enemy mobs; it's you also hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's not so nice. And now I can actually get shocked from like a barrage without dying. First of all, I can take that without dying, which was kind of nice because I didn't dodge and I just like took the whole thing. And it shocked me, and my Righteous Fire still didn't degen me. I was pretty happy. So build is kind of working.
That sounds very wholesome. Yeah, I think honestly, before they started the league, or like when we heard the teaser season and the announcement of the rework war cries and the patch notes and stuff, I thought that no way am I not gonna pick Call to Arms for the instant war cries. But for some reason I feel they did a really good job getting the power level of the war cries to the point where you're like, maybe I'll use a second war cry and don't go Call to Arms. Like for me personally, it's just I don't know. I started VD Spellslinger Necro and I quickly integrated in Enduring Cry, but just getting Infernal Cry in there for killing these juicy tanky packs. You wander into the pack, after you spawned your VD balls, you Infernal Cry everything's covered in ash, and then the first VD ball, and with VD you have that irregular damage. You don't deal the same damage in like a big area, right? Like here, like in there, some balls are gonna hit more, some balls are gonna hit less and stuff like that. There's always one monster that dies first, and when that monster dies, it takes the entire pack with it. And it just feels so good and so much safer for me also. Now, sadly, my VD died at level 94 in a no damage mod tier 14 pit map to Barcool, who just mowed me down with a cyclone, and I was dead. My flask, my basalt flask, granted, had just run out. And now I'm doing a Molten Strike on a jug because I wanted to try Ancestral Cry, which is the new war cry that gives you Ancestral Call effect for 8 attacks. And it also gives you melee strike range per nearby enemy power. So it actually... Yoji, you're muted.
Yoji?
Maybe that's intentional?
Maybe he's muted intentionally. He looked like he was saying something.
He looks confused now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I muted intentionally. My wife was here with the baby. I had to talk to her. I didn't want to interrupt you. That's why
I thought you were trying to say something on the podcast because I just saw your lips moving. It's fine. It's okay. What did I want to say? The Ancestral Cry. The melee strike range is really, really good because a while ago Molten Strike has been changed so that it doesn't drop balls unless your melee strike connects. So you can't hit in the air anymore and spawn balls. So getting additional melee strike range feels really good because your attacks are more likely to connect when you're in the middle of a pack and the monster close to you dies and then you have to target the next one and so on. You can stand still for a longer time actually hitting things with that increased melee strike range. And I'm a little bit worried because I can't use the Warcry as often as I'd like to, so I'm thinking about taking Urgent Orders off maybe, so that it doesn't have the +2 Warcry second, +2 second cooldown. But yeah, I don't know. Warcries, man, Warcries are insane.
I'm using 3 of them right now, so Seismic, Enduring, and Intimidating. Usually just running Seismic and Enduring. So Intimidating is just for bossing usually, or if
but it's double damage for 2 attacks, right? Intimidating.
Yeah, but with Fist of War, the double damage is usually more than enough to with Earthquake to kill pretty much anything except for the unique bosses. So I just combo it up for the bosses to get some strongest and pales out there. But I really enjoy the Warcry nodes, even if I still feel like in the end, Call to Arms is a little bit better than taking the nodes, because the nodes provide you with a lot of utility. You have like 10% regen on one node, and you have your Strange 1 second debilitate and 5% increased damage. My favorite one by far is remove an ailment, and it doesn't tell you what kind of ailment. It removes just anything, like poisons, okay, shock, just yell you're okay. Are you burning? Just cry for a bit. Are you bleeding? That's perfect. Just yell for a bit.
Remove an ailment.
Yeah, any ailment is removed, so it's really good.
I mean, if you run like 4 or 5 Warcries, then you remove just most ailments like all the time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I only have something for. I only have an anti freeze flask because you can't yell if you're frozen apparently. So
only if you're Jug.
Yeah, if you're a Jug, you can do it, but I'm going for a Berserker. So for extra regeneration as well. And at this point, I'm at 0.29 or something Warcry speed, which feels nearly instant, especially compared to the Earthquake. So, so yeah, it works pretty fine. I like it, but I feel like it could be a little bit stronger. In the end, it kind of has this one big disadvantage to try. So it works fine, but then you have your 5 flask buttons. Okay, then I have my phase run on left click. I have 3 war cries. I have my dash. I have my vow skill. I have my ancestral war chief. I have to balance around. So it's feeling like flask piano doubled up. And at some point, it feels like it either needs more convenience functions or it needs to be stronger to qualify, to give the player an edge, to give him a reason to go for all that extra. Yeah, I'm trying to find a good word, but butthurt is really the best way to describe it. To go your way to, okay, I'm at 2 exerts here, 3 exerts here. Okay, I need to walk right here, and that is now on cooldown. I forgot my flask. Oh, I died, and that's you kind of, that's a little bit too much in terms of complexity. Well, it doesn't add enough power that in return, and it does feel super satisfying. So with Ground Slam, I was making a perfect combo in 5 hits. I could kill a 4 Watchstone Conqueror, if you pull it off completely correctly. But if you don't, your Ancestral War Chief applies the Impaler, and you basically deal no damage at all. So it was tricky, so I took the Impaler out. It's good. It's a good start. It's certainly a big improvement over what was before, but similar to Harvest, it could be better.
Yeah.
There's some stuff going on there.
A lot of those reasons that you just mentioned are the reasons why I didn't go for a 2-handed slam build. Like, I played slams before. Basically, I played Earthquake, Crit Staff, Juggernaut in Metamorph, which was a really good build, like one of my most successful builds actually. Simply because one of the main reasons it worked so well was because the gear was super cheap because no one plays it. Now it's probably a bit different, which is one reason why I opted away from it. Also, Hedgie's staff got nerfed quite a bit, which I didn't understand. Like, I used that staff. It's not that great. Yeah, I used it. It can clear all content. I used an Abysses and my damage was okay. But yeah, the main reason is actually the whole piano. I didn't want to use many war cries. I always struggle with buttons. So I wanted to play a build where I mainly just like Cyclone through everything. I have not played, this is the first time of me playing the new Cyclone, by the way. I've not played Channel Cyclone before at all in any build. And yeah, it's pretty, I don't know, simple gameplay. Should like hold down button, go through mobs. I Enduring Cry sometimes. I press my flasks. Sometimes I dash. And now I actually can like, and Wild Righteous Fire. That's like all I do, I think. It's just still pretty good.
Yeah, once I finish crafting that triple T1 suffix Hunter amulet, I'm re-rolling onto something probably it's a little bit less intense.
Yep, I think it's nice to sometimes play a build like this. It's just not what you want to push to, like, I don't know, 100 maybe, or like very high levels and like just grind out maps with. It's just kind of like it's nice for a league start or like play for a few maps, but it's not like your main build for the league.
In Legion, I played a dual wield Hyan's Fury, Castwell Channeling, Shock Nova Raider.
That's a mouthful.
At least that sounds worse than my build currently. So I'm
it is worse. It was worse than your build because Hyan's Fury has the downside of increased damage taken per frenzy charge.
Oh, did you play that in hardcore? Or did you play softcore?
Yeah, it was in hardcore. And then dual wield 2 of them, double downside. And I wouldn't recommend, but it was cheap AF.
Yeah, I can see that. So how far did you make it with that?
I just used it for farming legions. It was just like I just
okay,
I want to try a different flavor of Cyclone. Let's
different flavor of Cyclone. Yeah, that's kind of like what my build feels right now as well. Like, I'm mainly cycloning. Of course, like the build, it's like one of those builds where it's like super intense theory crafting went into this build. Like, lots of parts fit together. Like, I need this specific watches. I need this specific corrupted mod here. I need this specific jewel there. And in the end, the gameplay is just like hold down button. There's lots of interesting stuff happening, but the actual gameplay doesn't really affect it. Which
simple gameplay is just too rewarding.
I don't know. I usually don't like it too simple, but I felt like having 4 war cries was a bit too much.
Yeah, the problem is with that is also the war cries have this ability of working. I think the problem is Seize Me Cry. Honestly, I think that is a big problem because Seize Me Cry rewards you incredibly much for being super efficient. Yeah. The last hit of Seize Me Cry deals 30% more damage and 120% more damage. So then you can also have your Intimidating Cry, which is double damage. You have your Berserker War Cry bonus, 50% more damage. Phase Run, 40% more damage. Ancestral Call, 20% more damage. Fist of War, I think 140% more damage. So if you combo
and then 10% increased damage taken from the intimidation itself.
Yeah, so if you have a lot of combos, and if you do them all a lot at once, it's very satisfying, but it's kind of satisfying at your own expense. It's fun, but you kind of do this all setting up and preparing and so forth. And I'm not sure, along the way, maybe you lose something. And I feel like I would be more happy with it if it would have more quality of life and would be a little bit simpler. Maybe Sees Me Cry could just give me 60% more damage and scale its AoE and
Just
on
a
all
support
stages.
gem. And sorry for interrupting. A skill support that links 3 war cries so you can just cry
Yes,
them
please.
at once in sequence.
Yes, please. That would be awesome. Like, or cry them all at once, and you can't use it with Score of War, but there'll be something like for that. But right now, it's too much clicking, and it's effective. And I'm gonna proceed clicking it. I mean, I've synthesized amazing 3% attack speed on my 750 DPS X, so I have to keep playing now. But I think while I can recommend that build as a league start or as a decent build, I think long term I would prefer haha Cyclone goes vroom.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming from like a hardcore background right now, I think it's just the easier the build to play is to play, the longer you're gonna live. Because if it's hard to play, you're more likely to make a mistake eventually, especially if you're trying to push long
Yeah.
sessions.
Yep. That's
Yeah,
kind of
and-
why I like tanky builds, and that's why I'm currently making
And that
tanky
is
builds.
absolutely the case. And I keep forgetting my flask and sometimes die to that because I'm trying to keeping up the perfect war cries, or I forget to use my life flask because I have focused so much on my enduring cry uptime, and it's effective. But I think for my next build, I found that shield with instant war cries. I might just slap the shield on, use Enduring Cry on my left button, and enjoy the consistent, really, really powerful regeneration, especially if I link it to like Second Wind and increased duration. Like 2,000 life regen, that's certainly going to get nerfed.
Yeah. That's currently what I have. I have like a bit of a duration and Second Wind and like what's it called? The call urgent orders.
Yeah.
That works pretty
I'm
well.
just using Second Wind and Enduring.
Increased duration, by the way. Increased duration is pretty decent.
Does the regeneration as regeneration? It converts to ES regeneration with Zealot's Oath, right?
Yeah.
It is what it regen it should.
That's
and you
crazy.
can keep it up consistently. You can just clear if there's Second Wind with increased duration with some other things. I've seen a few streamers do that in hardcore. They just keep left click pressed, and with go to arms you have consistent enduring cry uptime with all the strong enduring cry with all the regen, and you can convert it into anything you want.
Yep.
It is pretty broken.
Damn. And then you still have the Warcry cluster jewels that you can stack on top for more bonuses. Has anyone...
But they're not quite as stupid as they used to be last league, but I think that's a good thing.
Good segue.
Has anyone already implemented one of those jewels in their build? Do you?
I'm using 2 cluster jewels, but I'm not using any Warcry jewels.
I spent like 300 alterations, a bunch of alchemies, and used a bunch of essence. I used a bunch of other things, but after some time, I saw the news and thought, I'm gonna wait.
Yep. Now I'm waiting as well. I've like a few hundred alterations already stacked up again, but they stay put until I get my clusters. I have all the base jewels ready. I just need the rolls to actually happen. I have like 1 jewel that's usable that I've rolled. Like 2 of 2. One I actually bought for a chaos, which was exactly rolled like my builds needs it, but that's because it's very obscure, I guess.
I love the numbers on those. So I saw some statistics. If you want to roll 2 specific mods, like Doriani's, whatever it was, Doriani's Leech Node and something else, plus a 2-socket Jewel Node, currently your chances are like 1 in 50,000 or something like that if using fossils. So if using the right fossils. So I feel like it might be a little bit too low. So
maybe they overdid the nerf slightly with that.
I like the idea that cluster jewels are not supposed to be your base tree, but kind of an extension. So once you're rich, you can invest into them. I think it's a good idea to not make the base tree kind of obsolete, but the odds are kind of a little bit too low.
Yeah, I also think that they kind of have to decide what they actually wanted to do with it. If they wanted to be like some end game min-maxing that only a few people can access, or if they rather balance the nodes in a way that make it so they are more balanced with the tree. Like they have to be like a little bit better because they are an investment. But last league it was like cluster jewels, but basically accessible for everyone. And I actually planned my build around cluster jewels, and now I'm doing the ZDPS that I'm doing currently a little bit also because I'm kind of lacking most of my damage, which comes from all the cluster jewels. I have all the tanks, so I can take like slams from Drox and stuff. That's cool, but he just doesn't die. And right now I'm like really hoping for some cluster jewel improvements. I think it's a good thing. I think it would be more fun if they were a bit more accessible, because it's a really cool way to further customize builds.
I'm glad it's getting addressed, because in their post about like what we're doing with Delirium, one of the big points that they mentioned was that they really liked cluster jewels and they wanted them to be very accessible.
Which is why I planned around it.
Which is also why my build guides planned on having them.
Was that the changes that you had to make it work that you mentioned earlier? Was that like just like remove cluster jewels for now?
The entire thing was built around having a large into two mediums into two smalls, and the large that I want is currently worth about 90 exalts. And I'm like, well, I can't suggest that a player that needs to follow a build guide buys a 90x jewel.
Just buy a headhunter.
That has to be changed.
That's very consistent with a lot of forum guides that I've seen. Like, okay, here you have to mirror your weapon, just get that and a headhunter, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and I was like, the whole build was built around that being a thing, and I'm like, because they said we want cluster jewels to be accessible to everyone. We enjoy them, we like them. We're going to balance the overpowered ones. Here, have them, and now you can get the base, but you'll never roll the jewel you want.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Especially since they also nerfed a lot of completely destroyed or reworked a lot of the very, very powerful nodes. And they
even removed.
Yeah, and I get it. I really get it. But they probably shouldn't have done those two things. They either should be so rare and so hard to craft and it's worth all that insane effort, or they should be not so hard to craft. They also should have a reasonable power. And they kind of went with both options, which feels pretty unfair. So I hope the new approach will actually feel much better. I mean, I'm pretty sure it will. Because you basically have a lot better chances to craft a lot of things, since there's one additional mod and 2 jewels and 1 jewel is guaranteed. So
what I find interesting about the change is that they actually buff the top end of the jewels with that change, because you have one more mod that you can roll on this, which that actually surprised me a bit, because I found the top end of cluster jewels was completely fine where it is. Like, it didn't need a buff, and now you can, with the jewel sockets being basically the implicit, and always being there. Of course, rolling is easier, which I think is the more important thing. But you can now have
base is harder to obtain.
But you can have 4 mods now. I have all my bases ready. Only thing I need is like actually making them craftable. Which the bases.
I can even imagine that there will be large cluster jewels with no notables on them, because if you have like super powered large cluster jewels with 2 sockets that you can use for medium cluster jewels that specialize, and each cluster node gives you like 40 life and a bunch of life regions of force, you could absolutely go for that even without notables. Just have a super high powered stat circle.
Yeah.
40 life is possible per node?
I have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure on small nodes you had something like 30 life, and you can also have like 25%
increase effect,
and you also increase the effect of the implicit, and then you get regen, you get some damage on them. So I'm pretty sure you can make it up into a very powerful stat circle if all of the notables are either so rare or so pointless that you would prefer spending medium and small cluster jewels.
Yeah. Could be. And just having like these like random, I don't know, like +6 int here, +5 strength there, that can like really free up space on mods on your other gear pieces if you actually get that. Because if you just like your large cluster has like +5 int or whatever you need as an off stat on every single point, it's like 20 int, 30 int. That's like 1 int mod, and that makes gearing a lot easier, which is it's pretty good. Especially if you're running Mjolnir, which needs like freaking 300 int. Why does it do that?
You could also go for that new keystone that basically removes all the requirements, and also wear that strange armor from Kavas.
Oh yeah, you could do that, but no, I need another timeless jewel in my build. But that thing is really interesting. I felt that's like at least the thing is, it's on a very inaccessible piece of equipment, which is like a cluster, a timeless jewel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes gearing easier. I found that a bit weird. It would be something that you would definitely use for leveling if you have like an obscure leveling build that needs crazy stats. But in endgame, you kind of want. I feel like there are very few builds that don't want the bonuses from like having strength, because at some point you will have like 300 or something from one attribute, and intelligence is good with like mana. Yes, strength is pretty good. I guess dex is not that great, but accuracy usually kind of want that unless you're a caster.
Yeah, I think it was designed for those Mjolnir builds and builds with crazy high stat requirements. I think it wasn't designed for leveling. You have a Stromantis for that.
Yeah, it does make sense that you don't design it for leveling, but then, I mean, aside from what's called the Garb of the Ephemeral, or whatever it's called, I don't really see any build ever using that.
Well,
like, even on Mjolnir, if you have like 500 strength, you just like put on the Repentance Gloves, get like 120 increased damage for now.
That is not true. A friend of mine who only plays Aura supporters, and he only plays Aura supporters. So I've never seen some other supporters too, but never damage.
Yeah, those guys could do that.
And he plays only supporters since like 4 years, and he has become insanely good at it. And he dragged a new friend into PoE, and he said he started on hardcore with him. So he was Aura supporting him because he basically never be able to die, since he was getting like 300% Aura effectiveness with all the cluster jewels. And then he equipped him with all the Herald gear last league. And after playing them for 1 week, he told a sad piece of news. Someone died, and it was Bob. It was ancestral guardian, and he was wearing garb of the ephemeral, and he was wearing a lot of expensive gear. So the guardian died, and he was more upset about it if his friend would have died because he was using such expensive gear on hardcore.
No, anime guardians always play hardcore. Those guys are crazy.
Oh, yeah, anyway, not ancestral guardian. I've played too much Berserker.
Yeah.
Everything's ancestral now.
Oh, I had to use General's Cry to kill Siri because I was one-shotting myself with my slams. So
yeah, I saw that. I was actually like, that's pretty hilarious because my Earthquake had the same problem. Like normal Siri reflect just like you one-shot yourself. Even before the buffs, like it was already a problem.
So
like,
General Cry was a win.
Yeah, I just usually just took off some gems and then would be fine.
But then you have to compensate damage.
No, you just I just like put on Wild Earthquake, run around in circles, stuff dead. That works.
You just do less damage intentionally.
I mean, I just stopped doing Atziri, but I wanted to kill that one Atziri because I started it. And then I was like, well, this build doesn't do Atziri, I guess. Yeah, but yeah,
that's a weird mechanic to want. Be like, oh, I need to do less damage to fight this. That's an odd mechanic.
And I found it really weird because the build does have, like, your build probably also has like a decent chunk of armor, right? So I found it really weird that you would actually one-shot.
You don't get like an amount of reduced reflected damage taken, and then you're fine.
Yeah, you can. I did like Yugul later when I like actually thought about the issue. I did like Yugul and the Sibyl's Lemon Ring, or whatever it's called, and that worked.
I'm still wearing Catabula. Can't find a 6-link or obtained one in any way.
And you're your Berserker as well, so you take some extra damage. Yeah, I was a jug, so I was really surprised that happened. I was a freaking jug with like 8 or 9 endurance charges. I still offed myself to Atziri Reflect. So it's two-handers are weird.
I still haven't even touched Atziri. I just assume that my minions that I can't control will kill themselves and that it's not worth doing.
Oh, you can actually focus them pretty well on stuff. But the not worth doing part and trade is probably true. Unless you're doing Atziri like after like 10 hours into the league or something, are the first person to sell like some of the items. Or like the first person to get to Uber Atziri and then to kill her and then to get those items.
Yeah.
But there are probably people who do that way better because they do it every league.
Yeah, if you're selling flasks on day one, that's some pretty good money.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is nice money, that.
I bought my flask on day 3 and it was 1 chaos, so it's not lasting long though.
No, it is a day 1 deal.
Yeah.
How much do they go for on day 1?
Like
several chaos.
like 10 to 15 C, but this is when exalts are 20 to 30.
Yeah.
So you're making
basically
half an exalt off a flask.
That's pretty good.
And you can run a lot of a series in very short time if you just like run the fragments.
Yep.
And you can buy the whole set for a chaos.
Wow.
And then you can sell the flask for 15. So, but it really only lasts like a day. Not even a full
not
day
even a day. It's like you have to be like among the very
Yeah.
very first to do it, and then you're basically counting minutes or hours, not days.
Yeah, you're like, okay, now I can spend 2.5 hours farming at 0, and then you'll sell like 8 flasks at like 15C, and then you're like, ooh, flasks are selling at 10C. Ooh, flasks are selling at 5C. Ooh, I guess I better go mapping now. Flasks are now a chaos. All right.
Oh. But at that point, you have a few X stashed and wait till there are 200 chaos, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, like it's fine.
It's all right. It's a good investment to get like 200 chaos for a few hours. I would do that.
Setting yourself up for success.
Yep.
So the league is 12 weeks long, not 13, but 12 weeks, because they're trying to get the schedule back on track for the Christmas release.
Which is definitely good.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yes.
Does make sense for like holiday planning and all that.
Oh, absolutely. What I was wondering is like, what are you guys' ambitions for the rest of the league now that, I mean, it's only been the first week, but the scope of the boss fight and everything, are you happy with how fast the boss race was over and with the general content for the league? Because it does seem like it's not really all about the additions in terms of monsters from seeds and that sort of thing, but the real end game of Harvest seems to be the crafting.
Yeah, I can see myself wanting to finish some crafts, like creating that few fracture crafts I've been thinking about, or creating that T1 amulet, Chaos amulet I'm working on, but I've reached the end boss, I think like 1 or 2 days after it was beaten. It was fairly easy to reach it in the end. And I was pretty disappointed by how easy it was. So I was kind of expecting. So my experience with Sirius was, even if Sirius was a little bit of a complicated boss with all the storms and so forth, I first went into the Sirius blind and I got stomped. The first time I entered Shaper blind, when he was just released, I got stomped. And then first time I tried Katarina, I nearly got stomped. And I enjoyed trying the bosses for the first time in a very blind manner. And then I reached the final boss of Harvest, and I felt like, oh, it's nothing. And basically the league is over. And now I've killed Sirius as much as I want. I farmed Shaper, farmed Elder. Okay, I haven't reached Uber Elder yet because I'm getting the wrong fragments. But I'm not actually sure. We'll probably go for 24 challenges and then do some filter and programming related stuff or go play something else. But I don't see myself, or maybe we'll try to draw this out to not play so much and kind of play it a little bit so it doesn't get old. But the end game of the current league is pretty lacking. So especially if you've played all that last leagues, I don't see myself beyond finishing a few crafts. I don't see myself playing that forever right now.
Yeah. That makes sense, but I don't know. The amount of crafting potential there is in here is probably going to keep me very entertained for the entire league.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Especially on a trade league, right now, you can just decide you can just build your item in Path of Building and then be like, okay, I'm going to make that and then do it.
Yeah.
Like if you want 6 tier 1 rolls on your gear, just do it. Just make it.
It's just like a matter of time of grinding the right crafts, and you can guarantee most things. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm actually really happy that I decided to roll like a crazy, intricate build that needs very specific gear, because it makes perfect sense to roll. Like this is the right league to roll such a stupid league starter. Yeah. There's like, okay, I need these 4 mods on this piece. I need these 3 mods on this piece. Otherwise, nothing works. And
then you're like, and now I've got 2 pieces to get all my elemental resistance. And you're like, okay, no, actually, I can do that.
Augment. All right, yeah. Exactly. And then I need 90 chaos res for my divine flesh. Okay, add chaos mod. Thank you.
So, what kind of interesting tricks have you learned with the crafts? Do you have any interesting advice to share about what you can?
I have an interesting trick. I had boots. I found boots early on in the league, like really low item levels. They were really easy to do with low level crafts all the time. They had double tier 1 life. They didn't have good movement speed, so I just crafted on movement speed, but the double tier 1 life obviously was really nice for me to have. They had 15% chaos res. And then one of the mods is like remove a chaos modifier and add a new chaos modifier. Right? And so I was like, hey, we can remove that and we can get new chaos res on top of it and get like above 20%. And then I removed the 15% and it put on 7%. And I've done it again since then. And it just removed the 7% and added on 7% again. And now I'm wearing boots with 7% chaos res. Thank you, Harvest.
that went on for a little bit, that game with life, and I had like 6 or 7 life rows like that, and finally I reached you 1 life instead of 17 life on my rings.
Nice.
So something I can advise, I think there was a Reddit thread about that, is you can craft something like, let's say you have a remove and add a fire craft, and you can craft that on a ring. You can craft yourself fire on a ring, and then you can say remove and add a fire craft. And that way you can permanentalize a craft, like something like fire resistance on a ring, and you can craft something else again on that. So you can craft new, kind of free up crafting spot and use them up slowly.
Yep. That's what I've been doing on a +1 to fire gems amulet that I have crafted. Is like tier 2 spell damage, has all the attributes I need, and has +1 fire, and it has like an open suffix and open prefix. And I've like now replaced the res that I crafted with like an actual res, and now I can like craft life, and at some point I will remove the life and put an actual life on, and then you can basically make like a non-bench crafted item really, really easily. It's pretty insane, but it's like this very like slow progress thing, which I enjoy. But I think a lot of people are not like, I don't want to have like craft on my item for like, I don't know, days until it's finished.
Right now, the biggest question for me is, can crafted mods get fractured? So that is something I'm trying to figure out, because that changes a lot of things. There's this mod where you can fracture an item, like fracture an item that has 5 mods, and it fractures one of them. So the question becomes, if I like multi-mod on Metacraft 3 mods on that, and I have only 2 mods that are not fractured, will it guaranteed, not crafted, will it guaranteed pick those 2 mods? That's something I'm currently trying to figure out, because it would be really good for crafting really high tier items, such as tier 1 tyrannical or dictators physical weapons, or something like an essence item.
If it happens the other way and it does fracture crafted items,
meta mods.
That means things like minimum endurance charge and frenzy charge and things that can't roll, you could fracture them on and then chaos spam, fossil spam, try and get another one.
Yeah, and the question is, if it fractures them, are they still crafted mods? Can you then craft a new one?
I would expect. I would expect
it would a lot of questions to experiment there.
Yeah, I would expect it would still take up the spot, but maybe they just count as fractured. Then what happens is if you change a resist, like there's something that's like change a fire resist to a lightning resist or whatever, those crafts. If you do that to a crafted mod, it changes the craft, the resist, but it's still a crafted mod. So you just changed your crafted fire res to a crafted lightning res, which is like, you could have had that cheaper. Because I've been using that a lot.
Currency on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. With the tempo mods, can you change a tempo mod from fire to lightning?
Only resist. They're not resist mods. I tried that, and for me it didn't work. Like with they're like these hybrid like resist, like what is it? Lightning resist and Fist taken as lightning, and I wanted to recraft that into lightning resist and fire resist and taken as fire, because taken as fire obviously for me is better. That doesn't work apparently, at least for me it didn't. But there seem to be some bugs sometimes where you can't apply crafts that you kind of should be able to apply. I feel like sometimes I had where there was like there was a fire res mod there, and I wanted to change that into a lightning res mod because Chieftain gets 100 something fire res. I don't need fire res on my gear. And I couldn't. I don't know why. It didn't. It just said it doesn't have a mod of this type, but it has a mod of this type. And I'm like, question mark. So maybe it could have been one of those cases. So I can't tell if that's it was bugged or if that actually doesn't work.
There are some other things you'd expect to work that don't. Like
I had
socketed gems are supported by minion life. You would expect that to be tagged as minion and life.
It's just
It's
minion,
not a
right?
life modifier. It's
Yeah.
just minion, and there's no minion crafts, so you actually can't play with that.
Yeah, same
By
with
the
like
way-
poison mods not being
Not
chaos
being
mods.
chaos. Yeah.
By the
But
way,
bleed mods are physical mods. Yay!
yeah, there's something
Some
I
of
can
them.
advise about minion mods. I've used that strategy and it worked out really well for me. So I found a convoking wand, and I rewrote that wand to have some cast, some fire, lightning, code modifiers, and crafted something like a physical modifier on that. And then there's this interesting mod called reroll an item that is much less likely to roll the mods it already has. And it works wonderfully with a lot of items, like where you have some really rare specific mods. So it instantly rolled my wand into a 4 minion mod thing. And it has like 90% minion damage and movement speed and still a free socket. And I mean, still a free craft. So that's an interesting approach you can take with that. There's like so many tricks I'm trying to figure out. Like, it's also really interesting how it basically needs to fill a form, so to say. So let's say you have all prefixes full, and you can't add any prefix on that, any live prefix. No, wait, how was it? Oh, yeah. There's this remove a non-defense mod and add a defense mod, like remove a non-life mod and add a life mod. And that one's really, really clever because it can't touch, for instance, your life mod. And at the same time, you can pretty much predict what it'll give you because the prefixes and the suffixes are full. So
you can do stuff like
there's so many clever things you do with that.
Yeah, you can do the stuff like getting those like % life influence modifiers on top of the tier 1 life roll and stuff like this. Is pretty crazy.
Yeah. You can also guarantee an explodey chest, and you can guarantee tailwind boots, and you can. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do.
There's lots of crazy stuff you can do. And there's also this craft that I think at some point people will come out and realize how good that is, where you sacrifice an item. For example, sacrifice a weapon and you create a ring with similar mods.
Oh, what do you do with that?
You can. I don't know yet, but I've like experimented with it to like see which mods. I have like a small list, where I have like some mods which guarantee apparently other mods. I've not really found an example yet, but I've not really looked into it too much. But I think there's probably something really good hidden there that nobody has figured out yet, or maybe some people have and are printing crazy items. And that's like what I'm predicting, that like week 3 or 4 someone will come out with how I made 50 bazillion mirrors sacrificing shitty 1 chaos weapons into OP rings. Stuff like this. I think
by the way, I'm 100% certain that what will happen is they've added a lot of free augments on level 1s. And that is absolutely broken because level 1s can still get influence with some tricks. You can make an influence level 1 wand, and you can use that to craft a lot of +1 gems on that, like +1 to all fire, +1 to all spells that can already roll there. And then you can still meta craft stuff on that. So I am certain some people are already like preparing, if they're not like printing these, and they're probably also 30% corrupt those so that you can't mirror them again. So there's like a lot of dirty things you can do with those level 1 crafts. I see money in Balor's eyes.
like, cha-ching.
I'm already doing a trade search to see what's happening.
Making custom leveling items is always cool.
You can definitely make
that
the
was so
most
cool.
OP. Yeah, you can make so OP leveling items. That's true. Kind of like with Essence, when you can make like crazy Essence.
Delph Fossil, also Fossil mods,
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
The leveling gloves. But yeah, no, in Incursion, when you could do the Mudflats temples, the ultra low level Incursion temples, and the Incursion specific mods don't have any level requirement. They don't raise the item level requirement. So you could have like flat chaos damage and cast speed hybrid mod on a wand or dagger at like super low level. So OP for Blade Vortex.
Yeah.
I really hope I manage to fracture one of those temple mods.
Nice. There are definitely 50% chaos damage, 14% chaos damage, multi and +1 to level of chaos ones that are level 4.
Yep.
Up on trade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. People are definitely doing
that's
stuff
disgusting.
like that.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
You can
So if anyone wanted to
so
level
much
ED,
damage.
it's pretty good right now.
Yeah, when I saw that,
Dang.
I thought like that'll get abused. That'll get so abused. So I think the GG kind of missed that when they thought like we'll add those low level mods. Or maybe they thought like, well, we don't care. But that was definitely something that is really powerful for spellcasters.
I think I can definitely see it being a case of we don't care. Like if they made mods that guarantee explodey chests and stuff like this. Explodey chests are basically the chase rare item of
So how do you guarantee that?
Out of physical, there's only 3 physicals that can possibly roll. One of them you can craft, and the other one's really easy to roll and is also suffix.
Yep.
So you can roll the really easy one, craft the other one, hit add a physical, which is cheap and plentiful, which has to add a prefix. Bam, you've got explodey. You can wipe your suffixes off and go from there.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
And normally you would then awaken an orbit, but at this point you can actually just like finish the chest with.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that because I'm not quite there yet. But that's a really good idea. Yeah, cool.
I think it's like Fizz taken as lightning, the Fizz reflect mod, and explodey is the 3 things that can roll.
Have you tried synthesizing? Have you tried synthesizing one of your items already?
I've not had that craft.
I haven't had it at all.
No one. I had it twice.
I would like to have.
But there are a lot of shit mods.
I had it twice.
What tier seed was it?
It's at tier 4 seed, so it's a tier 4, I think, yellow seed. So I think it was I did it on this level 78 or something. Well, tier seed level 78, and the first time I did it was like afraid I'm using a brutality build that would like roll fire damage, and I was hoping for like some amazing things like high tier physical percentile damage, and then roll 3% underwhelming attack speed, and it so looks funny. It's this 750 DPS X and it says 3% attack damage is an implicit, and I was very overwhelmed. But the second one worked out much better. I got a helmet with 15 dexterity or something, 2% dodge chance, and some evasion. So it was. Yep. It's fun.
Yep. There's like some really good, insane mods, and there's like lots of really, really bad stuff because you'd roll like from the whole list, and the list like some of the mods have like lots of tiers as well, even the bad ones. So it's a huge table of mods, and there's
but it's
good
perfect.
And lots of bad.
It's perfect for some items. So some items where you don't want to influence mods, you can absolutely do that. Something like helmets or gloves where
helmets are some of the best influence items.
Yeah, but if you just have a rare helmet, for instance, it's kind of like a chance thing. Or let's say you want to have a basic white helmet at level 86, and you set it with give it like that treatment, so that if it draws something really good, you can then enchant, and then you can really craft something amazing and sell that. Same for gloves and same for boots. If you're not going for the two-toned or for the tailwind thing, so there's like a lot of pretty cool things where you just can replace the implicit effectively, or don't have the implicit.
For me, I always thought like on helmets, I always want like either like minus res to nearby enemies. There's like so many good crafts, like plus damage to spells or whatever. There's like lots of good stuff on helmets that I always wanted, so I never would synthesize that. And then boots have like tailwind and elusive, so I was like, no, don't want that. So for me, it's like mostly gloves where I would put that, and they have some good mods, and like weapons. Of course, like weapons have like a really high chance of not rolling anything good, but if you hit that attack speed that on that foil, or you hit the flat fizz on like a dagger or whatever, or like percentage fizz on a two-hander, it's like upping the base damage, which is
it's a good idea to consider. I just used it on my helmet because it was just a really, really good rare helmet what I'm using. I'm not using it at that point.
I mean, in SF it's definitely different, because getting that perfect 85 base helmet with your influence that you need right now is just so unlikely that you can definitely use that helm for a while before you upgrade.
Exactly.
And I like crazy helmet. So, just real quickly, I made a helmet with like 1200 armor. And it's like double tier 1 prefix and tier 2 increased armor. It has tier 1 hybrid and tier 1 flat armor, and it's insane.
Gotta get that molten shell.
Divine it to more than 1200 armor. But it's just sad because of the life, obviously. 33 life doesn't cut it on a helmet.
Remove defense, add.
Yep. Yeah, but then I remove the huge flat. Or the increase. No.
Just keep removing and adding.
Yep, you just keep going until you get what you want.
Yeah, I think that's also the crazy part, that you can retry. Like, your item basically can't really brick.
Unless it's rolls rarity and mana, then you can only metacraft and now it.
There's also keep prefixes, reroll suffixes, and keep suffixes, reroll prefixes, which I actually do have a few stored. Those are pretty insane as well. It's like, oh, I don't need to waste exalts on metacrafting. Cool, click.
I have just found that Onyx Amulet with Hunter mod, so it has 25% reduced malevolence cost at C1. Then it has C1 chaos damage over time and C1 resistance, I think like code or something. So it has 3 perfect suffixes, and they can augment it with +1 to chaos gems, but don't have the metacraft to remove the rarity that is a prefix. So I'm waiting for that until I can finish that craft. But yeah, it's kind of the league where you can craft your dream items, which is nice. And it's interesting to watch Standard being a little bit afraid for obvious reasons.
They're not the league with the crazy items anymore.
Well, they have all the legacy stuff, so they still have the league
true.
with the crazy items.
Yeah.
But
And they will eventually get at least the items that were crafted, right? So.
And Harvest didn't add anything new, so it added a few enchantments and a few kind of weirdish small thing, but like no major new buffs.
Yeah, they just made it really easy to get fantastic gear, but they didn't add a ceiling to that fantastic gear, which is great.
Well, they reintroduced synthesized bases and belt enchantments. I mean, what are your thoughts on those?
Sounds crazy.
Isn't there like 2 good ones and the rest of them are complete garbage?
I think it's like 3 or 4 good ones, but yeah.
They're all kind of meh. Even the good ones are. They're kind of like top end min maxing. Like if you have 45, you have 200 armor, or if you have Arcane Search, you have like 20% increase Arcane Search effects, or something like very, very small buffs to everything. But I guess it's nice, but
it's kind of like I have finished everything else in my build. This is the only thing I can still add, right?
Yeah, but if you're
I want to make my headhunter fancier.
Yes.
Yeah.
But isn't that what like where you get the
headhunter.
big gains is like in the very end when you get all the multiplicative scaling set up, and then you just at one point in the multiplication you change a number like a decimal behind the comma, and everything explodes and goes like woo.
Well,
I don't think that happens. I think what will happen is if someone runs that super omega difficult uber duper lab, they will still enchant a helmet, right? Because it's more money.
No, it depends on your lab. So there's 3 lab types, and
but they can still enchant helmet, right?
I think they can, but I don't think they will. So there's one with crazy rewards, one with 6 helm enchantments, and one with a belt enchantment.
Yeah,
6 helm enchantments.
Yeah, 6 helm enchantments.
Yeah, I think you would not run the belt enchantment one if you can run the 6 helm enchantment one instead. Or
I told you, my final Izaro slammed me, so I have no idea.
And then the crazy reward chests one, depending on how crazy is, could be pretty good.
Oh, my advice to you, if you try that, do all the side content stuff, because the side content chests already drop crazy stuff. Yeah. So one of them was dropping stacked currency, like I got 4 or 5 chaos ops in a stack there, and there was a lot of small currencies like that. And the other one I found at double crafted unique, so it was fun.
Definitely sounds worth running and worth using if you get it. Like actually making the fragment. Pretty cool.
That does sound
Good thing my character is actually a good lab runner. That's good.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into Uber Lab with my MS Jug. Finally something.
I was super lucky with the labs. I got the whole Uber Labs on the day 1, so I got into maps and I had like 6 after each other perfectly lined up.
What?
So it was insane.
That is insane, yeah. Truly, like an SSF can easily take you past level 90 before you.
Yeah. It was the same for me last league. No, it was exactly that for me last league. It took me I got it on day 4 or 5, and it was 92 or something. In that case, I just got it all on day 1, and it was fun. I liked it.
No matter how rewarding those labs are,
they're still labs.
I'm not running them. It's still lab. I don't even want to do Uber Lab. I do because I have to, but I don't want to.
It doesn't sound like something I would run for like fun or profit, but I feel like as a challenge because they look really, really difficult. It's kind of like more of a let's see if my character can do this. It's more
a
that
challenge.
Yeah, it's more that than I will run 15,000 Uber labs this league, or like super Uber lab. How do you even call these? The Uberest lab of all Uber labs, the Omega lab.
The Omega Lab.
I think it should be called Omega Lab.
I'm gonna go with Uber Plus Lab.
I'm gonna call Omega Lab. I don't care.
And
a very Uber Plus.
The scary thing there is you make a gauntlet, and you know these gauntlets where you have to push this really annoying thing, and then it starts spawning level 83, 300% live porcupines. It's the scariest thing that I've ever encountered.
That sounds very much worth doing.
I nearly died there. That was spooky.
That doesn't sound great.
And they're also really fast.
I think it's more for like a challenge thing than a. Like, I'm doing this for fun thing. I don't.
Did you at least check which chest was behind the thing when you did the escort gauntlet NeverSink?
No. I just went for all the areas and exploring. But yeah, name someone. Chat's going never name someone more lucky than NeverSink and SSF. I'm still wearing a tabula, and I've tried everything: fusing, divination card farming. So not this league.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
No double cosplays.
I have some amazing rare. So if you take a look at my character, he says like equipped in amazingly rare. So things like really, really great. Stygian with like 60 life, T1 strengths, 2 really high resists, and then everything's great, and then you have your tabula in the middle. It's like,
That's where your RNG went that you needed for 6-linking. But maybe you can still get a 6-link seed, right? It's just like boop. Done.
I found a 6-link Aura Sacrifice like on day 2, and it wasn't very effective.
Yeah, I guess.
And now physical weapons deal more damage than Aura Sacrifice. So
yeah, that's really the crazy part. Auras is always was like one of the highest base damage weapons. Was never like that great, but at least it had that going for it. And now you can just like craft like a same DPS fizz weapon that can impale and
yeah, it doesn't
really
cause you to take more damage.
Yeah, it doesn't even have that anymore. So it's like it just kind of exists. I guess you can like flicker with it very easily, but even that is now easy. So I don't really see any reason. Yeah, kind of lost its point.
Poor Auras.
Poor Aura Borrow.
No, they now nerfed. Elemental is now weaker and Dual Wield is now weaker. So now they have a league where they can buff those.
Has anyone seen this OP brand stuff? With what was the number one guy in hardcore SSF was using Arcanist brand with Wave of Conviction?
We don't know what he was using, right?
No, we don't really know, right?
I mean, that was speculation. I
Not
suppose.
at all.
I mean, Wave for Conviction was bugged, right?
Yeah,
was that the thing that this like did like 5 or 6 times the damage? Because
Yeah.
one of my viewers actually told me like, "Hey, did you see that? It does a lot of damage." I'm looking at it. I leveled with Wave of Conviction on my character, so I know roughly how much damage it normally does. And I looked at it, was like, "This has to be bugged. There's like no way it does that much damage."
If you have a single corrupting blood mob in front of you, and you use the Arcanist brand to put 1 Wave of Conviction on it, you instantly have 10 stacks. So it is repetitively hitting for what must be at least 10 times the damage it was meant to be. Because the 1 hit it should do, bam, instantly 10 stacks of corrupting blood.
Yep.
So it's hitting, at the very least, 10 times as much as it should be.
Yeah, I heard it's doing weird things. Like it's
a lot.
Because you spawn it in
already?
the monster.
Yes, right?
It's fixed already, I think.
I think it's fixed already, yeah.
Yeah, Master was doing that as
was.
well, and there's some pretty strange, strong things going on. Also, by the way, wasn't the same for you in the first days, where once you reach endgame maps, you get no augments or no like no like remove seeds or whatever, none of those expensive seeds. But once you reach the 14 plus seeds, you're
get them back again.
you're getting a lot of them. So I was getting only lucky augments, not a single normal. I didn't even know those exist. I had like 10 or 20 lucky augments stored away and a few removes. So it was really strange. I wasn't sure if it was a bug or it was a feature. It was this kind of a bad seed situation again, but it was really strange.
I'm actually not getting like the lucky ones. I have like one lucky one I've seen so far. I've seen lots of the normal augment, not lots, but like several of the normal augments, and I've seen lots of the switch out, like the remove augment types, and I have a few removes, but the lucky ones I've only seen a single one so far.
Yeah, I've even made a video, and if I was going there, I had like 8 stored, and each of them was a lucky one. So I didn't even see a normal one. It was just lucky augments.
To me, it sounds like a case of RNG, but I don't think they would make those more common even in ITMS.
Yeah, I don't think it was RNG. It was like I found like 20 of them. It was only lucky and starting with T14, so it was kind of beyond the range of where you can still hope on RNG. So it's like a billions chance probably that such a thing would happen.
All right. So maybe it was like early on it was a bit weird because I didn't get to tier 14 that quickly.
I think it was bugged because after the last patch it doesn't happen anymore. So now I'm getting normal augments, normal removes, and a lot less of them. So I have no idea what's going on.
Oh yeah, and since they upped the seeds, I feel like the crafts have been reweighted or something. I'm getting a lot different weighting in general now. Not just like less of the good stuff, but like the weighting in general seems to be a lot more mixed and a lot different than before. Before there was like certain things I would always see, and now I don't see them anymore.
And that's actually good. I like that. I like the latest patch.
I like that I can go into the garden more often now and have something to do. It kind of felt like I was already playing the league how it was implemented into core at the beginning. Was like, 3 seeds, okay, 10 more maps, and I can finally do something in the garden. And
maybe.
Now it's more like it's more like, all right, run a few maps, do some gardening, run a few maps, do some gardening. It's a lot more, feels more like a core mechanic, and lot less like a core mechanic, more like a league now.
I'm seriously considering ripping up my entire garden so that I can find a way to put 4 tier 1 plots in. Because if you're running like really juiced tier 16s, I'm gaining seeds and I'm trying to plant them as quick as possible, but I can't get through them all now, which is great. But now I want to rip up my garden and rebuild the garden with 4 tier 1 plots.
Yeah, at the beginning was the opposite problem. So you were like, I don't need more space in my garden. I don't have any seeds anyways. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
And now it's the opposite. Kind of like slowly.
I'm kind of afraid because I've already adjusted it all and have those special crafting stations for economic T4 harvesting so that I don't have to use my T3 seeds. And now I have to rip it all apart because I need more space and I want to make it more efficient.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun, actually, like that. Give me upgrades, GG. Sure. I want to upgrade my garden.
It's good that you can actually still min-max it after you already like got to super high tiers and new problems arise. I mean, I don't think it was intended that the patch would like change your strategy, but it's still nice to have to change the garden. I mean, it would be kind of sad if you just set up your garden like at level 70, and that's like till the end of the league what you use.
And I'm looking forward to the new items that they mentioned, that there's going to be a garden fertilizer, whatever the thing will be, that will cause effects like more seeds or more rewards or more life force. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounded interesting.
What?
Yeah, they announced that they're gonna introduce a new item. I think in the next week. That's that you find several of from the final boss, and then just find some of them randomly. And these items will have some effects. I haven't kind of told how exactly. I think it has an AOE or something. I remember reading that, and to be having different effects, like giving you more life force, more seeds, more rewards, more whatever.
Yep, that sounds pretty cool. That's kind of like the upgrade type of path.
Did not know that was happening.
That was put. I think that they put that into the seed upgrade. That they mentioned that like in the end that they were adding that as well at some point.
Right. Yep, I definitely missed that one.
It's just like one paragraph in the middle at the bottom somewhere.
Yep.
I'm checking out if I can find that. We are working on a new reward items that can drop from both harvest monsters and the final boss. There are several variations of it that you can receive randomly. It has a limited number of uses and can be placed within your garden to produce more life force from nearby plant, create luckier crafting outcomes, or provide a chance
crafting outcomes?
Yeah. Or provide a chance to generate additional crafting options for each of the ones you planted. We are brainstorming other stuff it could also do.
All right.
Sounds like. I think it's like kind of cool. Sounds like something they maybe just didn't finish in time or something when they.
So,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity, what do you guys think will happen with Harvest after the leak?
I'm really bad at predicting that. Like, for example, for Delirium, I thought it would probably go core in some way, but for example, I'm very surprised that they put the Delirium orbs all in. I thought they would maybe make it so that Zana drops them like Guardian maps, like the Delirium orb maps, something like this. And I don't think the implementation makes much sense. So I'm hoping they'll find a cool way to do it, but it's difficult. I find it difficult to implement it as like a 10% thing because you need a lot of that to make it work. But then it's the same with Metamorph, and they still put the 10% thing in. So I think they might just do 10% and be done with it, but I really don't think it will work well. And I can definitely see it being either some like a master system that could work, but then that would get like more blown up, which could be bad. There's already so many masters. I mean, they could maybe remove some of the other masters. What they could also do at some point, maybe cycle masters like Zana mods, where you don't have the same masters in every patch.
I would like to have a choice system, like you can choose which masters spawn, but I don't think that will happen. Like you can pick 5, and you have to pick 5, but you can't but you can decide like, do you want to have Nico, or do you want to have Oshabi, or do you want to have remove Alva, so that you can pick some of these and depend on your strategy. But I don't think that will happen.
So what you're suggesting is that we just remove Alva from the game.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they'll put Harvest into the game. So pretty sure it won't happen because it's kind of so different from the other part of the game. I think it's kind of like initial bestiary. I think it will maybe be removed, and maybe we'll see a rework, and maybe the crafting stuff will be re-implemented in a certain way. But I think this whole the factorial gameplay thing, I don't think they'll stick to that, sadly. Which is probably might be better for the community, but it's bad for me.
I don't see where it stays, but I really want it to and be improved upon and expanded. And I really love this. I mean, people are saying Factorio, and I hear that a lot, but this feels also a lot like Garrisons, almost.
What's that?
I haven't played that.
All right, so that's a WoW thing. I don't know. I like this idea that I have a base that I'm building that's like and expanding on, right? Like that's like this is now I'm far more attached to my garden than I have ever been to my hideout.
I mean,
my hideout is
something.
That is
bullshit.
True.
It's irrelevant. It doesn't do it. It's not there for any purpose. In fact, the more I add to my hideout, the slower my load times get. So a more bare bones hideout is even better. But the garden, I have spent hours building and theory crafting and like using that planner that was made, which is amazing, to try and fit in what is a ridiculous amount of storage. And like I'm invested in this, and I've never been invested in the hideout ever. I don't care about the hideout. It's
I just download
completely functionally useless, so I don't use it. Like I don't know. I'm really invested in this, and I want it to stay, but I know it's probably not gonna.
It would be nice if it would stay, because I agree. I like it. Like if it would add more to the, it doesn't add more to the. I mean, Harvest itself, it feels a little bit like Prophecy. Prophecy was a horrible leak because it was all right leak, but like as a leak concept, it wasn't great. But it's a great addition to the game. So afterwards, after the leak was finished, it was really exciting. And that's how I feel a little bit about Harvest. I really like the mechanic, and I wanted to be part of the game. But I think just kind of as a temporary 3-month thing, it's less exciting than other things.
Yeah. But as Balor said, I don't really see them adding it either. I think it's also the power level of the crafts would kind of like create some issues later on. I think this is something that's nice to have for like three months, where suddenly rares can be as OP as you want them to be. But if that's like a permanent thing, that would could cause too many issues. Or maybe they just nerf it into the ground when it comes to the crafting, but then the whole minigame is just not worth doing.
Reforge is a magic item guaranteed that it gets a custom mod. So you can only use it as alterations.
Yeah, something like this. Just cluster jewel it.
I don't know. I really like the idea, the premise of the league, where I feel with stuff like Delirium, they really want to get the average player into pushing their potential, right? Because it's such an obvious league where you need a lot of clear speed and running speed, and you want to. You have this drive to get better and better. And I feel with Harvest, they really wanted to get the average person into crafting. Like I said earlier, they handed us crafting on a silver platter, and I'm just a little bit worried and sad that many people are not getting to the point where they actually have fun in the league, because because you have to get into crafting in order to do it. But
you
the
kind of have to
people
be
who do.
Oh, sorry.
No, the people who do are having great fun. Like, some people told me it's one of the best leagues that they ever played. And personally, I also think it has potential to keep me busy for the 3 months just because of the crafting. But for the people who just play the content and who are not really interested in doing this, interacting with the crafting system in depth, for a lot of people, a big majority of the community, there's nothing much to do in the league. And because of that, I fear that the league will have poor player retention, or at least not as good as, hoped.
I think there's just some people who just don't want to craft, and you can do whatever they want.
Yes.
They just don't want to craft. Just like there are some people who just don't want to speak clear. You can also do what you want. They don't want to do it, and if they're forced to, or like push very hard.
There's no extra content for the people who don't want to do that, like, because all the content, or most of the content, is crafting.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, that there's like not enough for the clear speedy type people in the league. It's just crafting. Yeah. And same with Delirium was just pushing, and there's nothing else. Yeah. And
if you
I feel like maybe
maybe
like the next evolution of leagues has to be like more towards getting something in gameplay wise for everyone. Like, I know GG tried to have like some crafty, some theory crafting, some bossing, some this and that in every league. That's kind of like what they said is like the difference in like the next generation leagues that they're doing now compared to like Torment, where it's just like add a thing, or Nemesis add a mod, and now it's like there's a system there. And maybe like the next step would be making leagues more intricate in that they actually have different gameplay aspects that get every part of the community. Like there's so many reasons, so many ways to play PoE, and it's really hard to have a league that grabs the attention of everyone. And Delirium and Harvest in very extreme ways did not do that at all, I feel. But they were very, very narrow focus.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, I'm really liking the fact that GG doesn't basically put themselves in this tiny box of we're only gonna make clear speed leagues, especially since that was kind of at that end. Like, you can't push the loot explosions much further than you can go with Delirium without destroying the game completely. So I feel like if you would push the drop rates even more, you would have some really big problems there. And I like the fact that they said, well, you know what? We're going to go with a completely polar opposite and try something completely experimental, and put on top of that a completely experimental kind of this Factorio type. And I'm saying it in the best way because I love Factorio type gameplay. And you have your garden, and maybe it's inspired by, I don't know, Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. So, but it's like I'm really liking the fact that they're just not afraid of doing that super experimental stuff where a lot of companies would say, nah, this is completely out of our comfort zone. We'll just make ancient items or whatever.
Right, because like if people are always scared about, well, if this doesn't go well, then that's going to hurt player retention and numbers and profits this month and whatnot.
Yeah.
Whereas GGG's view is, well, if it doesn't work, then we'll know what not to focus on next time. And
people will come back next league still, because everyone knows next league will be different, and they won't necessarily do the same thing again. That's why we come back. Even if you have a league where like you look at it and you're like, this sucks, I hate tower defense, screw Blight, I'm going back next league. That's cool. Play something else, and then next league you're like, oh yeah, this is Delirium, this is cool, I can play this, I like clear speed. Or you're like, oh, Metamorph. I think maybe Metamorph is actually one of the better leagues now that I think about it. When it comes to grabbing, maybe no one just hates bossing enough. I don't know. to have complained. And why was that league was like very well received from what I've remembered.
Well, it also
Yeah.
combined the complete Atlas rework, so there was a lot of things to do.
Oh yeah, that was true as well. Yeah, maybe that was what helped it. But this was generally like a bossing focused thing because we had new Conquerors, new Series. Okay, Series was not well received, but Metamorph. Also, I'd never minded Metamorph. It's like was rewarding, but it felt like there wasn't enough risk involved. It was not just clear like
not
Legion
enough
clear low
risk
tier maps.
involved.
No, there was enough risk involved. Unlike Legion, where it's like you can clear what was it like tier 2 maps and get rich. Metamorph was actually they were rippy almost no matter what you did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, what I just wanted to say, because we were talking about how and if it's going core, because I assume that the numbers and the general reception of the player leagues are just going to be underwhelming.
Why do you think that? Like currently, the Steam numbers are looking pretty normal.
You think?
I think
so? I just
I
read
don't
that out
think
of the
I
general
looked at them.
mood of people coming into my chat. Maybe it's like confirmation bias or whatever you call it. The fact that
That's
the
actually,
only
like,
people
even
who don't like it complain, and the people who do like it just shut up and
Yeah.
enjoy the game. But
Too busy playing.
I don't know. Just the general vibe sounds to me like, hey, I would love to have more fun, but there isn't just really that much to have fun for me in the league with. But maybe that will change when the people are, for the people that will give the crafting a chance, right? Because
Yep.
crafting in Path of Exile is always fun, and like we all said, we would play a vanilla league if certain issues were addressed, if we get quality of life and performance.
I
and
never
feel
said that. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I want content, please.
That's not
I
true.
want both.
a lot of people said that, not you in particular, but a lot
I
of
always
people
find it-
said go easy with an easy league, not
I
too
always find it
overwhelming.
difficult to say a lot of people. Like, there's lots of loud voices always. I find it really hard to judge what a lot of people say of like some
That's-
people are
that's
crying
true.
really hard.
I
And that's
find
why
it-
I'm always careful
yeah.
with this. Because
I
on
find it
Reddit, for
very
example, right now, there were like a few attempts that were really blatantly trying to make the league seem dead already.
Mhm.
With like actually like faking Steam numbers and stuff like this, which I upvoted, and then people were like, actually, this is not true. The same numbers as Delirium at this point.
Yep.
And I actually went into Steam, looked at them myself, and it's like, yep, these guys are just trying to make the league look like shit because they don't like it. And there's a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah, I've had very polarizing opinions.
Huh.
So I've been streaming a bit, and this time, as a matter of exception, and I've had many people who were like there and they're saying, "Wow, that's the coolest league ever! I'm so enjoying crafting, and I like optimizing my garden. I'm having so much fun, and I'm crafting the best items ever." And then some other guy comes there and he says, "I don't get dispersers. I want Delirium back." And I get it. So some people just don't enjoy this complexity, and some don't want the crafting. They want to buy your headhunter from PoE trades. They want to farm really efficiently, and that is probably not the league for them. So it's just a very, very polarizing league because PoE combines those two aspects of going fast, boom, boom, Cyclone, Headhunter, over the Quicksilvers and Onslaught. And there's a other approach where you have this really deep game knowledge crafting system with like a ton of tricks and intricate information, and even like information's vacuums where certain information is like withheld because it can lead to some really profitable crafts and ideas. And I think like this league is really focused about the second part, where you can do a lot of cool stuff with that, but it just doesn't address everyone. It addresses some people.
I think polarizing is the right word for the league, definitely. And I agree with the premise of Catmaster that I do think that the retention might be not that great because there simply isn't that much content.
Yeah, exactly. There's this great crafting, but there's nothing to aspire to in terms of new content that you could use that new gained power to craft items in order to progress.
Yeah, I think if there's a drop off, I think it will be pretty steep. Because once the average player gets to see, like, let's see, the tier 3 seed, the tier 4 seed bosses, maybe see, like, the boss, and then they're like, yep. And then once most people get to that point, who usually play longer, I think that will be a pretty steep drop-off. But that's probably, like, 4 to 6 weeks in, I think. Because I think if you're, like, just playing a few hours, like, doing the working class exile type of gameplay, I think it will take you a while to get to, like, the actual boss. Because I think, what is it, 100 maps for the last
Yeah.
Last thing, and 100 maps is quite a bit if you're not playing like super efficiently. Actually,
Have you all defeated the final boss?
I've
No.
not done that.
So the final boss. Have you seen the uniques from the final boss?
Nope.
I've only seen the claw, the wolf claw. I've
So
seen that one.
the wolf claw is the only one that I feel like is actually interesting. Everything else, it's a kind of very strange uniques as well. It's the first time where I see uniques with like only 2 to 4 mods. So they're very, very different from usual unique designs. Very unique. So I found, maybe you've seen it on Reddit, so I'm gonna just talk about one of them. It's the one that drops most. I have found it as well. It's a helmet with that gives you 20 to 30 stats, and it has 2 random support gems on it. Like, I don't know, great amount of projector and impale. And the projectors have level 15 to 25, and you can divine them to get different support gems. So it's like
the levels as well. You can also divine the
okay. But it changed both support, always level and support. So you can get like it's kind of like a 6-link.
I like that. I like that. That's cool. It's kind of like Thread of Hope, where you kind of like change your radius, but you also change the resistance. You hope to hit both the right way.
Yeah, and all the uniques that the boss drop has this really strange. It doesn't have a lot of stats. Instead, it comes with a few tightly packed, like more or less build-defining stats. It's a little bit strange, but I like it. It's interesting. I'm not sure but I'm not sure if a lot of people were spied. Like if you have an item like Savior, this is like a power shining item. It looks cool, it sounds cool, it is powerful, and you will instantly get, oh, it clones my attack. I like the doubles and numbers. I will like high numbers. But with an item like that new brand stuff, or that wolf claw, or that 6-link helmet, there's like more intricacy into it. So it plays into the thing that a lot of people that already like the league will probably like, but the ones that don't like the league will probably like it even less. So if someone finally beats the boss and finds that helmet, he's like, no, why? I don't want burning damage and trap support. Go away, and like vendors it.
Yeah. Does it make it obvious that you can divine it, or do you have to actually find that out yourself? Because
it doesn't
if you just look at it and you're like, wait, why would I use a trap support by burning damage helmet?
It does make it a bit obvious. If you look at the advanced mod descriptions, it says from great amount of projectiles to urgent orders. So there's like this.
Okay, that's cool. Can roll from GMP to urgent orders. Anything is possible.
And GMP
that's the range of supports we have. Urgent orders to GMP. I like that.
So GMP is like the lowest value?
Yeah, it's
like the worst. And urgent order is like the peak performance.
It's chronologically. They said GMP is the first gem. It's chronologically. Mark said it somewhere.
Yeah. It's the first gem they made, probably, yeah. That's cool.
That's hilarious.
So if they data mine it, they can see it which order the gems have been designed. I like that.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
PoE history helmet.
The thing is, I can just make Shaper or Elder helmets or whatever.
They don't have all supports though, right? They don't have all supports.
No, but
if you have like a really specific weird build, I mean, you can roll like Impale and stuff on there, which is kind of cool.
I felt like it would be probably really usable if it had 3 supports. So that way, it could potentially be really insane, and it also doesn't give you any kind of defensive stats. So you just have up to 30 stats. So it's honestly not that good. So I really don't see a lot of reasons to use that. With 3 stats, I can see that. I could like roll something. It's kind of like Megalomaniac in that helmet.
It would also be really hard to hit 3 supports that were all.
It's already hard, and
that makes sense together, yeah. Or even if, like, imagine if you divide it, and also the number of supports would also re-roll from 1 to 3.
Yeah,
just to make it more annoying.
Sadly, I see that happening, but I see that happening next league. So I probably
change the helmet,
they'll probably see it and see, well, no one's using that. We're gonna buff that up, and they already done that they already done it with the prismatic juice. They kind of did it with Megalomaniac, so I'm pretty sure they might come up with the same solution.
Yeah.
And there's this Night Rage build as well. I like that.
It's insane that they didn't cap voices. No, did you mention Megalomaniac?
Right now it doesn't matter. You can't make any fucking jewels.
Yeah.
But voices is still insanely expensive, interestingly enough. Even though, like, imagine you buy like a voices for like what's like some X that it's like costing, and they're like, now I can't roll anything to put in there. Damn it!
Now I don't have the currency to buy the jewels that I need for it.
Now I need another 25,000 chaos to roll the jewel. But yeah, it's a bit interesting. But yeah, I'm curious if the jewel fix will actually do it. If it'll actually make it more accessible enough. We'll see. Like, it's a weird league. It's kind of like a weird league where there's so much change coming. Like so many new additions, so many things that already changing. It is actually like a little bit like Synthesis, where the half the league is getting like changed.
We know it's coming next week. Do we expect it early, like Monday or Tuesday?
I hope so, because I have no work next week. That would be kind of useful.
Yeah,
Friday would be kind of
really
sad.
Next week, Friday. Damn it.
It just says next week.
Yeah.
But usually
Plus
the patches
jewel
come like
patch.
Tuesday to Thursday is usually when the patches
Yeah.
I'm
That's
hoping
so
it's
nice.
May-ish.
But usually the patch would be the first like decent patch would have been out Thursday, like 2 days ago.
That was the hotfix, right? That was
Yes.
yesterday?
Yeah, it was the
seed
world's
hotfix.
tiniest little hotfix. So we're already a little bit behind where they would normally patch stuff, actually, which is understandable.
Well, usually like
Especially
big
with the
patch can
extent
sometimes
of the
be
changes that they're
and even like
doing.
Delirium, wasn't that like way further when they finally made stuff like visible?
Oh, that was like a month in, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like 3 weeks, something like this.
Yeah,
that was rough.
I think for the first week they also had like double damage, because at some point they just halved the damage of pretty much anything in Delirium because it was hitting so hard, and because no one in hardcore was simply starting Delirium.
Sometimes I wonder if like some of these like first 2 week patches, if that could be kind of like foreseen in some way. If they could like once it's out, it always seems so obvious to us.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Some
Like especially the
things-
Metamorph Saki. I mean, everyone saw that in the trailer. That was a problem, that you had to pick up the organs. I think everyone who saw they could have shown the trailer to like anyone, and they'd be like, "This needs to like not be picked up."
I think about it that way. So they have a 3-month cycle, right? So at least from that 3 months, at least like 2 weeks goes into refining the current league. Then you have like 2 weeks that this goes into designing the concept for the next league.
Yeah.
Then they need like I know the work is distributed and they can do parallel things at the same time, but still some things take that dedicated time. Then there's like 2 weeks of design time of designing the whole concept and so forth, and they program that for like 4 weeks and put all the assets, and that puts like together at most a month of any kind of playtesting. So in many cases, I think they just say, well, we don't know if investing the time into that quality of life solution is the right idea. Maybe that's not what the players want. Maybe that can something be done afterwards. So they release a leak, there's initial hype, and they can also keep the hype up by then improving something semi-obvious, maybe, so that it kind of helps the population jump kind of and proceed. So it kind of is a buff to the league. So I think that's kind of their train of thoughts. At one time, they save time. They give it a little bit more way to know what exactly they need to do. The players kind of alpha test them for them because they have a very short time available. And finally, they kind of also boost the population with that buff. So I think that's kind of I think that is what their philosophy is.
Yeah, I mean, I know how it is. I do work in QA and quality control, so I know how it is that my time is the first time that gets cut if the production has time management issues. So it's basically quality control has to like work in half a day. I'm like, that doesn't work. We can't do it in half a day. It's not possible, like physically. But yeah, I think that might be the same there as well. But
there's some things like quarry farming is realistically currently the best way to make money.
Really?
That shouldn't be true. Haven't we done this before?
Yeah,
like 5 times?
Is it still the
in
case?
The last like 3 years?
I think it's probably like, I mean, probably tier 16 farming and stuff is still better, but quarry farming is everyone can do that instantly. Yeah,
it wasn't very better.
Beginning. Yeah,
it isn't. It might be now, but it was definitely not better.
It was. I mean, quarry farming doesn't progress your higher tier seeds, and it does give
but
you life
literally
force,
irrelevant.
yeah.
I'm telling
But
you.
it needs like
I'm
zero
telling you,
investment, right?
It needs
And
zero
I'm
investment.
I'm telling
and
you,
it
you
gives
could
good
quarry
life
farm a
force.
headhunter in 8 hours.
Quarry farm a headhunter.
I'm telling you, you can quarry
Headhunter
farm a
does not drop
headhunter
in
in
quarry,
8
I'm
hours.
pretty sure.
No, but you can quarry farm the amount of money you need for a headhunter in 8
Via
hours.
the craft.
That's what I'm saying, and that shouldn't be that. So there's some things like that like I get, like limited development time, blah 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 blah. I get it, and I'm forgiving of a lot of things. But certain things like harbor bridge farming and quarry farming being the best way to do things,
we had that a few times.
We've been through this path before.
Well,
it feels like there should be a check mark on the wall of like, can I quarry farm this? Can I harbor bridge farm this? Right, let's get rid of those.
It's like a QA checklist. It's like quarry farming nerfed, check. Yeah.
And there's just the one other thing which, look, I'm actually pretty happy with the league. Like I'm good in general about this league. However, the one thing I don't like as an excuse is limited development time. When they're like, oh, but we've only got 12 weeks. I understand that, and that's sympathetic. I also don't care, because you're the ones that decide you only have 12 weeks, and that's the decision that you've put on, and that's the business strategy you've gone with, and only having 12 weeks isn't an excuse at that point from a consumer standpoint, right? Like, that doesn't... How much development time you've given yourself isn't an excuse for forgetting something. Like, that's... If you need to make it longer, make it fucking longer. Like, that's not my problem, right?
Yeah.
And
then they
that's not actually a complaint about this league, because I'm really happy about this league.
Yeah, me
but
too.
it's just a general, like, you can't use that as a defense thing, right?
What they always say is, like, even if they made it longer, then, like, the scope of the league would just increase, which I think is a realistic thing that would not naturally happen. But the thing is, what they have to do, if they are, like, we have a 13-week cycle, then you have to get better within that 13-week cycle. At some point, you have to improve, right? I mean, of course, they're trying to do that, but there's some mistakes that they're always, like, repeating, such as, like, the quarry checkmark is not hit, or just in general, like, little things that I feel like a little bit of Q&A would maybe go a long way. Because if someone really tries the league early on, it's like, wait, so he plays for, like, let's say, like 3-4 days, it's like gets like into early maps, whatever average Joe gets in, like, early on, like white maps, and he's like, I'm only getting like 5 seeds a map, I'm quitting. And then he's done and comes back next league. I mean, yeah, if he buys like a supporter pack, whatever, they got their money. But if he stayed, maybe that would have, like, helped grow the game, make the numbers bigger on Twitch, make everything else, like, grow. Maybe they didn't buy a supporter pack yet because, like, 5 seeds is not enough.
Maybe getting someone on board like Octavian, who is a long-term player, will have an effect for testing these very pragmatic issues. Because I feel like this league was also designed by a lot of things that they've done. Also, I don't want to go into the alpha process. I can't go into the alpha process of the league, but I can tell that a lot of things that they're doing and they're designing right now, it feels a little bit like a lot of things were done by really clever people who really know how to design games, but actually never played PoE on a very, like, end game scale consistently. And I feel like maybe adding someone like Octavian to the core design team might have helped that. Like, it's a cool idea, but the thing with quarry farming, as you said, is very predictable. So the thing with map scaling that a lot of people complained, it was very predictable. Like, it's on the top list of the usual complaints.
Yeah.
And
like, it should be obvious at this point that tier 16 map should be more rewarding than your tier 10 map, which should be more rewarding than your tier 1 map.
And those and they kind of done that. So it was rewarding. Tier 14 maps were more rewarding than Quarry, at least from my testing. But you know how the scaling was? Like, Quarry starts here, and then it goes there, tier 16s. So it's basically this instant jump, and anyone who doesn't get there basically doesn't even get the feeling, and that's kind of really unobvious. Why would you expect, if you're in, like, cred maps, that going up to tier 16, tier 14, tier 16 suddenly makes it so much more rewarding? No one expects that, and everyone farms Quarry, and obviously everyone gets salty. And so it's like, yeah, I get it, guys, but That's kind of a mix of communication and practical, pragmatic balancing that's coming from a game perspective. So if you would play the game and you know how it feels, Progress the Atlas, how a new league feels, that kind of mistake would probably be avoided.
And
even if they're still doing amazing job. So I'm really hats off to what they can pull off in 3 months.
Yeah, they definitely do. I feel like the investment to get this little bit of extra fixes in can't be that large if a lot of like veteran players see it immediately once you show them footage. You know what I mean? Like even if they're like, okay, we have to cut time on the QA part, but that can't take too much time to find out. And then the development, in some cases, maybe it might be like the Saki metamorph thingy probably takes a while to implement, but upping seed or tweaking seed drop numbers, that's just tweaking numbers. That can't take too much to implement, right? I mean, it didn't. There was the hotfix.
They did it server side. They didn't apply a client fix. So there probably is some sort of configuration thing they can just roll out. Just change some numbers, probably in some Docker configuration, meta configuration.
It seems like it was super simple.
Containers. So it wasn't. We don't know. Honestly, there have been some. They might have some internal infrastructure things. That it might be much more complicated than we imagined. That so it's really easy to say it from the consumer point, I think. But
of course,
I think the Balor's argument that a lot of those things could have been predictable stays true.
Me too.
Yeah, the power level of Purposeful Harbinger could have also been predictable.
See, that's something that could slip through. These are things.
Yeah.
Like quarry farming are things that have happened 5 times before.
Yeah. Like Harbinger is like a theory crafting oversight, and that the other thing is basically you have to have a checklist.
Yeah.
It's like it happened 5 times. By now you should have that at your like it should be like a standard testing procedure. Like when you go through the league, okay, does it fulfill this?
Yeah.
But
the maps get
Harbinger,
more
someone has
for
to
the league mechanic.
Has to look at it and be like, what happens if I use 15 of these? I mean,
missing a theory crafting thing that's fine.
That happens.
This game is so complicated that if they don't miss a theory crafting thing occasionally, they've probably simplified it down so much it gets boring for me.
Yep. I think that's
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and like the Herald thing, I think it's also absolutely fine. I mean, you add 300 new notables. I get it if something slips through that is like way too powerful. It's absolutely understandable. But the quarry thing or only lucky augments getting there in C50 and C16, that's a little bit harder to explain.
I see.
Anyway, that's it really sounds when I say stuff like that I'm like shitting on them like I could do a better job. I could not do 1/10 of the job of anybody working there. I just couldn't. It's disgusting how much they get done and how good this game is.
That is absolutely amazing.
That doesn't stop it from having like some little oversights like that could very easily be done better, right?
Yeah, it seems like that would be a comparatively easy fix. There's not like a game, especially as it grows, it also grows, the problems grow, of course, but that seems to be something that could be more easily fixed than a lot of the systematic things that have been like in the game for a longer time that needs fixing as well, such as like the whole loot issue that Chris addressed in ExileCon, where he's like they want to fix loot long term, that not like so many items have to drop. That's something that takes like very long time to overhaul. But just like having a QA checklist is something that hopefully is, and I am very hopeful that they will see. They're definitely seeing the issue, that they're patching every league after a week. They will definitely see that like what can we do to like reduce this and keep player retention higher the first few weeks. I would be surprised if they don't have that on their radar. They just have a lot of stuff on their radar, and I also think GG are doing a fantastic job overall.
For what it's worth, they're also incredibly good at designing concepts. Like the concept with cluster juice having the Jew sockets implicit. I feel like it's an incredibly intricate and elegant solution. So I feel like it's one of the best solutions I've seen, and it kind of doesn't address the thing that we're just gonna make it kind of reverse the last patch, or we're just gonna go to just going to go to how it was before or tweak up the numbers. So introducing a really interesting solution that kind of incorporates the core of the cluster duo while adding something new and adding a top end ceiling. So I really like what they did. So I feel like, wow, like hats off to the solution. It's like really incredibly well thought throughout things. And that is kind of where their design team shines. They have these amazing conceptual solutions that they just sometimes understandably. So it's a really tough job, but they just kind of slip through like one or two things that kind of make everything a little bit worse by not checking one or two things. And of course, it probably already fixed 99, but those remaining two things can make it destroyed quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just like you guys said, some things that could very easily been checked and shouldn't take that much effort. I agree. And otherwise, I have to also say that it has been an amazing launch. Aside from the problem with the Vulkan renderer, that some people have a large amount of invisible monsters.
I have a black box in the middle of my screen now. I don't know why. So sometimes it just has this big black box, kind of it's around my character, and it's like a big square, and like I would say,
I've seen a highlight.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, and it happens now all the time, and I have no idea what to do. So probably gonna revert my drive or something.
Yeah. But overall, like server-wise and trade API-wise, this has been the smoothest launch for like that I have had in a while. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to wait for like I could actually buy items on day one. Like I could buy a gem while leveling on day one from someone, and this usually I try to not do that. The API worked. I could just buy a Wave of Conviction because Marauder doesn't get it. And yeah, it was really good. I didn't have crashes. The queue was like going faster than normally, I feel. It was like everything was a bit smoother. And Vulkan for me works at least very, very well.
Vulkan is such a big upgrade.
And that's just the beta. I think like they said they want to have it out of beta by next league and have like the most of the current issues, like all of the current issues fixed, the big ones. Which I think is not only a lot of work to do, but it's also really, really cool because that makes me very hopeful that PoE will run super smooth. So yeah, it's good.
Chat says it's an issue with the latest driver, so I'm going to revert that.
Oh yeah, that sounds easy then.
I have not updated my drivers.
If everything's working, I usually don't update. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I don't update anything.
I update for a reason. So my sound was getting out of sync when I was streaming, and I have no idea what was going on. So I never. And I tried updating the drivers, and it seemed to fix the sound thing. But now
out of sync, NeverSink.
I know I've made enough puns with that already. It was good.
Oh god. But yeah, that's really upsetting when the audio gets out of sync and you don't know why, and it should be fine. But I had that for a while as well, but I don't know what it was and I don't know how it fixed. Was there any of we asked for viewer questions a while ago. Was there any ones that you found interesting that you wanted to answer before we end? Like a closing round, something. Let's see, the colorblind stuff. You think there should be more consideration for the colorblind people when they design League mechanics, or in general when they design the game?
I think yes. At a certain point, once a game gets large enough, it makes sense because most people would be surprised how many, like, what a large percentage of a player base or of people are colorblind in some way, and you're actually using a fair certain percentage of potential customers if you don't. And yeah, it just makes at a certain scale of game, it makes financially sense to do that.
Other games I've seen in the past just have colorblind modes.
Yeah, for example.
So they don't have to worry about being like, here's two different kinds of a purple plant. Because it looks cool for most people and they want to be able to keep that. And there's just like a tick box you can check that's like colorblind mode. And there's usually 3 or 4 of them, like Wildstar I played a while back before that got shut down. And it had like 4 or 5 different colorblind modes for different types of colorblinds. And it just refiltered or shaded everything into a different look, and I didn't use any of them because they looked weird as shit, but obviously for colorblind people, they were fantastic. And it stopped them from having to design their content in a way that would be comfortable for colorblind people. They could still do whatever they wanted and then just had a colorblind version.
Exactly. And having
I
that
like much better.
Having that makes financial sense at some point, because you have to implement that like once, and you have to I guess we have to like update it for like and check the content every time if it still works in colorblind mode, if you're not screwed up anything. But what I've heard from like other game development people that I have contact with, that they said at a certain scale of game it makes sense, because there's actually a large portion of colorblind people among people. It's actually more common than most people think.
So my take is improving the visual tells, the visibility of things for colorblind people also improves it for normal people. So I never understood why they got rid of the old gem sockets, by the way. When people showed me that the gem sockets, gem slots in PoE were, they did have different shapes for the different colors for red, green, and blue.
Yeah.
And very, very old screenshots. It's like one was like star-like, and one like triangle-like, and one like four things. And yeah, it was just super easy to tell, even if you were playing in monochromatic.
Why would you take that away?
I think it kind of looked messy. So PoE has a lot of complexity already, and like if you see a screen and there's already all these sockets and links, and now they have also some special shapes, I think they just try to simplify it a bit because they were afraid that it was scare of people of its complexity.
Is that why screen shake is activated per default?
But see,
I
that
like
could also be something that's just in a tick box, right? Colorblind mode, bam, gems change color, like gems change shape, sockets change shape.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to do.
That's it.
That would actually be the ideal solution for gems, but at the same time, it might be complicated with. I got to be honest. I've done some talk with colorblind people because of the filter, and something I've learned: color blindness is really, really complicated. So it's not just one thing. There's a whole diversity of different color problems. So I have no idea how to solve all of these with color filters. I'm not even sure if it's possible. I'm not sure if you can't do it properly. I think it's a complicated thing. It would be nice if in the design steps, while designing the color setup, like with different plants, they could have like a designer could, with some proper information about what colors you can combine, could like go with it and say like, guys, maybe we should make it like blue, purple, and yellow, and go with like blue, purple, and red, because that is actually something that people can then see. Or can the major people, a lot of people can see. I'm not sure about the solution. Maybe they could have given them a little bit different circles or something, but or add additional thing. But I believe that's something that they should be incorporating in their design process. Or someone is always responsible for checking item filters if that needs to be added. Someone is there to be to check if there's some interactions with Righteous Fire, because I said that there's always someone checking Righteous Fire stuff. I remember Chris saying it at some point. And the same thing should be going, someone should check, is there a problem with Quarry, and then is there a problem with colorblind people. The problem is that this list can't be too long because the development time is obviously limited. But yeah, I think as they grow and they add more people, I hope that at some point they'll incorporate a Quarry guy and a colorblind guy.
Yep.
And maybe even Harpo Bridge guy.
I feel like that's the Quarry guy.
The Quarry guy better do both.
Yeah, you can do multitasking, I feel.
Yeah. I believe.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a very nice. I think it's wise to not open another can of worms. I don't know what the clock says, but
yeah,
was mildly long podcast.
Yeah, but I really like the part where you guys told me about all the insane crafts that you can do, and that you still want to do. That's great. If I want to see any of those things, NeverSink, when do you usually stream, and where can I catch that?
The big difference is that I now stream. That usually I was like streaming once every blue moon, and maybe you would catch that. But now usually it's on my Twitch channel, Twitch TV/NeverSink, and usually somewhere in the evening, so between 18 p.m. German time until midnight, somewhere in that area, I'm usually streaming. And weekends usually pretty much earlier. Sometimes I also put something out on Twitter and on my Discord if you want to get informed. So yeah, I have some bot automation that I go off and on, depending on if I feel like it's too impersonal or not. But yeah.
That's great. I'm gonna try and catch some of that sweet crafting action. And how about you, Yoji? You're gonna squeeze in another stream or two this league, or
I
you're
already did
focusing on
my
YouTube's?
stream my stream for this league. So I streamed on Thursday. That's like usually I stream like once every few months, but I'm actually planning to stream a second league stream, which is next Thursday.
Twice as many league streams.
Yeah, like
100% more.
Yeah, and then we doubled it, and yeah, you can go twitch.tv/ItsYoji. But what I would actually recommend if you want to check out Yoji content is my YouTube channel. It's also ItsYoji, and that's where I put like regular content once a week at least. Currently, roughly, maybe.
So what's behind the horrible announcer voice, Yoji?
The horrible announcer voice. It's just, I don't know, like how that came to be. I tried to make a cool trailer voice, and then I was like, I can't do it. I have a weird voice, so I went all in on the really dumb sounding trailer voice.
Leaned into it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's how.
Well, I can't make it sound great.
That's how all my content is made. Like literally, the whole weird meme is me trying to pronounce weird in the like, so that it does not sound dumb. And then I was like, okay, every single one of those pronunciations, I re-recorded that. So my very first video that I made, I re-recorded it like 20 times, and every single one sounded bad. So instead of trying to take the best one, I took the worst one, and just like was like, I'm going all in, and that's how I make content ever since. It's like whenever I do something, I'm like, this is so horrible it could be funny. Instead of I'm trying to make this good. So if you like that,
if
type
it doesn't
of content,
just fall into good by default, then we'll take the worst option.
Yeah, as long as the worst option is kind of funny, it works out apparently. So yeah, that's what I do. That's the story of my life.
Well, seems to be working out.
Kind of.
Awesome. And do you have any content planned for the rest of the league, Balor, or you're gonna be done tomorrow?
No, I was thinking about going back to sleep right now, but yeah, no, I'll be. I can't. I want to start like an hour ago. Like I've been playing so much. I'm just going to be online like 14 hours a day for the next probably few weeks. Maybe 16. We'll see.
It's insane.
So twitch.tv/BalorMage is the place to be for those of you who want to tune in there. And if you're more a fan of the video on demand kind of stuff, there's also the YouTube BalorMage, where you will be able to find the fully uploaded version of this podcast with the video and everything. But if you're just into the audio, then of course you may discover that on all audio platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those big names that are getting thrown around in the podcast world. And yeah, my humble stream you can find on twitch.tv/CatmasterOP. And I also have a YouTube that you can check out that you'll probably find if you're smart. And with those words, I want to, first of all, of course, thank our amazing guests for coming on. Thanks, Yoji and NeverSink, for coming on such short notice again.
Of course, anytime. Podcasting is always fun.
It was fun. Thank you.
Rambling about PoE and going on crazy tangents.
And yeah, the next Faded Connections is going to be on the 11th of July, 9 p.m. GMT as usual. And until then, I wish you guys happy gardening and harvest and have a wonderful league.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye
So
bye.
I've been AFK in a WoW tempomat and it's been making really ominous noises. I'm gonna go take care of that. Goodbye.